We have had some excellent discussions yesterday evening, and of course, absolutely outstanding talks this morning. I'm sure many of you would have heard the star speakers in the plenary. Now we are on to the domain tracks. I am Pradeep Kapoor. I am from IIT Delhi, BTech, MTech, and further studies at IIT Delhi, JNU, Oxford University, Spain, etc. Joined the Indian Foreign Service, became an ambassador, became a secretary in the Government of India, joined academics after that, and chair of the Smart Village Development Framework for Wheels Global Foundation. Working in academics and in geopolitics very actively, speaking a lot on television channels, on a lot of channels for a lot of topics regularly. So the theme today before us is sustainability. Everything depends on sustainability. If something is not sustainable, it's temporary, it's transient. And India, I see India as one of the original masters, gurus, teachers of this concept of sustainability. I tell my students that the civilizational contribution of India is phenomenal, but also the civilizational contribution of India towards concepts which are sustainable. Examples: yoga, more than 5,000 years, spices, medicine, Charaka Samhita, surgery, Shushruta Samhita, classical dance forms, classical music, spices, food, thought, dress code, sari, Mahabharat, festivals. I'm just giving a very overall glimpse to save time. Mahabharat, festivals, Holi, Krishna, Diwali, Ramayana, so many thousands of years old, still continuing. Western dress, which many of us wear, how many years old? Just a few hundred, 200-300 years old, 400 maximum. So, today we are going to talk about, and I'll request the speakers, including Ram Ramanan, who's a very dear colleague of mine, to also focus on this aspect, which I'm sure he will. He has made great contributions. I'll be introducing him very briefly. So, can technology be nature-friendly? Sustainable development, environment, green energy. So, that is the main focus area. And I will just Ram, if you don't mind, I'm going to introduce you very briefly so that we save time. We're already running behind time because the earlier session extended by more than, I guess, almost 45 minutes. So this is, we work together in Wheels Global Foundation. Ram has been a very great value addition to the family of Wheels. He's a board member and he's chair of the Sustainability Council and the global co-convener of the Wheels chapters. He's a Fulbright leadership scholar, CSO, Chief Scientific Officer of Impact Edge, globally recognized expert in sustainability, ESG and CSR, through experience garnered over 4 decades in corporate sector, in the academic sector, and in the NGO sector. So I'm going to stop here because otherwise it will take up half the time of his session. I'd much rather give that time to him to speak and address us. Over to you, Ram. Take it on.
Ambassador Kapoorji, thank you so much. In the interest of time and trying to capture as much value out of this that we can, I'm going to get started. I see some more people debating whether to come into the room. Please do come inside the room so you can actually listen to this. All right. To start with, over centuries, societies have transformed from hunter-gatherers who lived on wild plants and wild animals to fresh pasture seekers, onto horticulturists who relied on human labor to grow their food, followed by agrarians that farmed with animals and machines. All that is history. They moved on to industrials who use mechanized manufacture for scaling. And today, in the digital age, information is king. Can technology be nature-friendly? Please raise your hands if you think, yes, it can be. Oh, that's nice to see so many optimists. The way I'm going to try and cover this is try to set a context. My mom never accepted ifs and buts from me. Every answer had to be a yes. If she says something, I had to say yes. Today, I know that is not true. So my answer is not necessarily binary. Can technology be friendly, nature-friendly? Sure, definitely, but only if. My dad was also an IITian from BHU, and he said, son, for any quest to be valid, consider all conflicts, evaluate all major competing priorities, and never, and I repeat here, never underestimate the ingenuity of humans. You heard this being talked about in our previous session by multiple people, people of great eminence. Together, and this was my father's most powerful statement, we can solve more problems than man can create. Keeping that in mind, I also recall my IIT professor telling me, Ram, this answer is nice, very nice, but my question was different. So please set the context first. If you don't set the context, you don't get the right answers. And with that, I will take you through what is an ecosystem, what is technology in our context, and what do I mean by nature. Economy or ecosystem has morphed greatly over half a millennium. That's about 500 years. Prior to that, mostly there were charter exchanges, nothing much. Merchants brought or bought goods and made profits using price arbitrage. Margin and greed for that drove entrepreneurs to make and sell it so they get a larger chunk. But then there comes excess greed that made the opulent few monopolize and try to take a lion's share. They pounded people and planet for profits. That unleashed the Anthropocene age, and society reacted with labor and environmental movements. This shift to fair share, mind you, not equal share, became the mantra and led to very sustainable ecosystem where stakeholders share benefits. I will follow that with the technology. So we talked about the genesis of economics our business and where we are. Now we'll take a look at technology. Concomitantly, along with what happened to the economics, discoveries, and we heard a lot about discoveries, have transformed the definition of technology. In 700 BC, Homer called it the spoken word of cunning skill. You know, something, you make it, and then you're the only one who knows how to make it. In 330 BC, Aristotle defined the Greek term technologia, also known as Tantra Vigyan in Sanskrit, as productive science that complements theoretical and practical science. More recently, in 1998, Arnold Grubler called it the widespread replication and growth that followed invention and innovation. You can relate to that. Inventions happen, innovations are the first practical application of it. You expand the application, learn from it, and then you do replication. And that's what is technology. In 2009, the Oxford Dictionary took a special effort to define technology as applying the productive part of scientific knowledge to obtain and convert natural materials. And this is very important. They're talking about converting natural materials to help humans. So see what happens. You extract and transform materials from nature for use in human interaction with nature. And today, we are in the digital era. Let's move on to the third of the three contexts. We talked about economics of business, we talked about technology, and now we're going to talk about what's nature. What you see here is a very simplified portrayal of nature is, and they have been deliberately topped with some UN SDG designations. And these I will explain to you in a minute. But prior to that, what you see here, there is life underwater, and we have 2.2 million species. There is life over land, and we have 6.5 million species. Those are dwarfed compared to the humans. We have 8 billion people. And nature in itself also includes plants, animals, humans, and the other forces, features, and processes that exist or happen. Of course, it must exclude, because that's not natural, the anthropogenic creations. Now, after all this that I've set the context, can we all live happily ever after? Anybody? Are we done? Can we live? We know what nature is. We know what technology is. We know what business is. I already gave you all the background. Can we all get together and just live? No, not really. Why? Because we face conflicts. Anybody familiar with the term externality? If you're not, don't feel bad. Almost every lecture I've given, especially to the more advanced engineers, technologists, and business people, I've never had an answer from anyone. And not that it's not easy to answer, it's a very easy answer once you hear me and understand what I'm saying. When a transaction cost is not paid by the buyer or the seller, and if an external party has to suffer that cost, that is externality. The poor guy or the poor lady had no role in that transaction where people are making and selling and making profits, but that person is suffering the consequence of pollution and unavailability of resources, etc. Now, the next part is the social impact that we talked about here. Are you familiar with social contract? You know, the license, I mean, we have been known as a license Raj at one time, but that's not the context in which what I mean by license here. License is the permission by society to the corporations and other entrepreneurs and operators to utilize your resources to make things for use by you and get some profit in the process. So they operate under license from society, and today those contracts are morphing. And they are morphing, why? Because of recognition, knowledge, awareness of people on externality. Oh, he's making all the profits, he's getting all the cheap products, and guess what? I'm the one who's suffering the pollution. And that's the one that really drove into environmental and labor movements. Now, oh, I shouldn't have done this, but I'll take it back. The smart ones would have already picked up. Can you tell me, anybody has a clue as to when sustainability started? When people started thinking of sustainability? Since I've already given you a clue, I'm going to probably quickly switch to that, and that is, it was almost 100 years ago or more. We have Gandhi, our leader, the father of the nation, who said, Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. And the lesson you learn, avoid excess greed. His contemporary, Einstein, said, man and his destiny must always be the chief interest of all technical effort. Learning, design responsibly. And Rachel Carson, some of you might have heard of Silent Springs, a poet and a nature advocate, said, in the century, or in this century, when she said that of the last century, man has gained enough power to alter his only planet. Please do not self-destroy. Do not be a bhasmasur. Some of you might recognize the term. Well, that clearly lit up activism. We had the 19th century core, it's called the Cree Indian. I'm sorry, I read the name wrong. He said, only after you kill the last tree, poison the last river, eat the last fish. How many of you here can eat money? I don't think anyone can. This turned into a very major operation, and again, starting of sustainability began with hugging of trees by Indian women. Who could be more powerful to make that happen? And this happened in 1970, and it drove me to pursue my very first graduate degree, and that was in protecting the planet, because my father had already told me people are pounding the planet for profits. It led to, in those days, to what was known as triple bottom line. Have any of you heard of triple bottom line? It's just people, planet, and profit. But in my experience, what I had garnered was, just like Gandhi had said, excess greed, or unethical behavior negates each and every one of these things. And therefore, you have to be aware that people tend to be very self-serving and profit only our favorite stakeholders. Sustainability is a shift from helping only your favorite stakeholder to all stakeholders, especially the key ones. And therefore, we had 17 SDGs created by the United Nations. This was a collective effort, a global effort. And what you will notice here, that while many stakeholders battle for competing human rights, which one do you support? Do you want to eliminate poverty or eliminate hunger? Any particular choices? If you could only choose one, can you eliminate hunger or poverty? Which one? You cannot. Both of them need to be addressed. Likewise, do you want health or you want education? Any one of you willing to give up your health for education or vice versa? No, you're not. Do you want gender equality or no inequality? If you can do only one of them, and these SDGs, while individually they are all sustainable development goals, are not accomplishable without considering the balancing of priorities. And others, for example, fight for resources for their favorite nature protection. Oh, I like water. Let me protect everything under the ocean. I'm going to let those above the land go away. Is that okay? No, that's not okay. And now I'm going to try and go a little faster. Among themselves, there are major competing issues: climate and energy. And I'll tell you why they are competing. You have food and forest. They are competing. You have environment and data. They are competing. We heard about how you want AI, you want data centers, and therefore you want energy and energy and energy, but that takes away something else from you. So realize all of these are balancing things. And now we will move on to a few examples I have. Oh, sorry, this one takes 2 clicks. I didn't realize that. Climate is a very major issue, and so is energy. People want absolutely no impact of climate change, no harm from climate change, yet which one of you is willing to switch off your lights and say, I want no lights? None of you. Another 2 billion people are going to lack clean energy by 2030, while at the same time, 660 million people will not be able to access electricity. And India itself needs almost about 500 gigawatts in the next 10 years. But energy is a very dominant contributor to climate change, trying to balance the access to affordable energy to meet human needs and to concomitantly limit global warming to under 1.5 degrees centigrade is a formidable challenge. And that's where you come in. And absolutely clearly, brains and brilliance of people like you can accomplish these balances, but we got to do it in collaboration with not just technologists, not just scientists. We need health specialists, we need IAS officers, we need MBAs, and we need people that are willing to put money and bet on it, the entrepreneurs and the VCs. It is a global effort that needs to come together, and that is, if anything, would be one major message from me. And just to show you, some people are a little concerned that, oh, this is all coffee shop talk. Or they tell me, just they want me to be nice. No, not necessarily. I will tell you why you should be nice. Especially if you're a hardcore businessman, Think long term. And here it is. These are examples where you will see that, I can't read it, so I got to read it here. Sustainable funds have outperformed traditional funds by 4.7% over a period of 2018 to 2024. Higher ESG, is anybody aware of what ESG is? Yeah. And higher ESG ratings have led to lower cost of capital based on rating quintiles, nearly 2% less cost. But remember that 2% means a lot. If you're getting it at 8% and you're getting it 2% cheaper, that is 6%. That is a substantial 20% difference between the two rates. So keep that in mind, and cost of capital can be very significantly reduced if only you were able to take your effort at looking at things in a long-term way and providing everything that you need to do to be sustainable. Now, I'll go to the next few slides. I'm going to try and rush off because I don't want to take away everybody's time. We are a little short on time, and these are examples of the same thing that I showed you. What's the next one? Okay. This is something you've heard. I'm not going to go through this listing. It's available on my slide. But what really we are talking about here, there are challenges, but every challenge also has a potential solution. And these solutions, making it happen in an effective way, in a consistent way, in a trustworthy way, in an inexpensive way, affordable way, is up to you. It is your brains I'm challenging. And this is a very clear example of where priorities of energy and water versus data centers. This is an interesting one, and I want to spend a little time on that. And that is human ingenuity. It was actually 2 Nobel laureates. I was trying to make sure I got the name right. Malthus, and there was another viewpoint called Solovo. When population, everybody knows the population growth was becoming uncontrolled. The whole world was going to go to doom. And Malthus said, absolutely. And you know what? Slowly but steadily, everything will become expensive. Nothing will be available for people. That really perturbed the Solovians. Solovians had a very, very different thought process. They said, you're missing something here, Malthus. They said, okay, we are both Nobel laureates. What we are going to do is share the prices of a basket of 10 different products. Put it in a basket. Let's wait for 10 years and find out, after 10 years, which of these are more available, more accessible, and less economically expensive. Guess what? Of those 10 products, 9 of them came out more available, more accessible, and even cheaper. Can anybody guess what that one product was which did not? Portable water. That is because we have an overall limited resource in the world. Portable water was one where they could not find a solution there at that time. So this is what I would call the dueling theory based on inaction. And this brings in our policy folks in a very serious way. As you learned from that experience, human ingenuity clearly won. And Solo actually commented in those years, he said, responsible energy consumption is not restrained growth. I hope you understand the difference. If you want to really, I'm going to conserve energy, I'm going to just start reading under a candle. No, you don't have to do that. If you apply your brains, you can actually take advantage of your brains, create solutions that are going to be far more acceptable and listenable. I'm going to go through a few more slides somewhat quickly. but this one is important. Here, we are talking about. I'll do that. Sure. Yeah. I've just been told the thing has been too interesting for too many people, and I got carried away. Pardon me. So we'll try to quick this a little faster. We have, this is the agriculture side, where there is usage of precision regenerative practices, irrigation systems, and other technologies, including things like biochar or other crop rotation that can be taken advantage of. How can AI help us? AI, in my mind, can provide three major things. It gets you insights to a whole range of people in things, including decision support, gain, productivity, where you can actually do a lot of things a lot faster and a lot more data can be handled. And it allows you to handle real-time monitoring of many things that cannot be done humanly without the AI. Okay. Human ingenuity also. This is the last slide. Human ingenuity has been clearly demonstrated in the corporate sector. One of the largest electricity provider is RWE, Rhine-Westphalia Electric in Germany. The chief strategic officer and chief sustainability officer is an IITian. And he gave me two examples where they are using greener steel for offshore wind parks and using recyclable wind turbines for circularity for recycling resources. With this, I say adieu. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. Well, surprise. The head mic has worked, so I'm not going to go to the podium. Just very briefly, we are going to request to set up the chairs for the panel. And while they do that, just a very quick story on sustainability. I was appointed as Minister for Economic Assistance and Cooperation in Nepal, in the Indian Embassy, Nepal, as the first IFS officer on that job. Because before I was appointed in that job, it had always been done by other civil services, from the IAS, from the Audit and Account Service. So I looked at the profile of projects which we were delivering in Nepal for 50 years, and I found that there was no compilation of the data, and a lot of projects had completely crashed through the floor, failed. So I had a very big team, because it's a big budget, 150 crores. So I asked them to take me to all the projects which had failed. So they said, sir, you're the first officer who's come and asked for organizing this. Everybody wants to go to the successful projects. So anyway, I went there and I realized, just one example I'll give of the failed projects. We had built a massive museum and library and info center in Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha, designed by a Japanese architect, funded by Government of India. It still exists. Huge structure, for 20 years not used. Why? Glass from ground till that ceiling on all sides, and Lumbini touches temperatures of 45 degrees or more. So the summers, the AC requirements of that building is more than the entire village of town of Lumbini. So many such projects which are absolutely, not successful. So I started thinking as to what would make things sustainable. So in most projects of mine, I did the biggest healthcare project in Nepal, for example. In eastern Nepal, BP Koirala Institute of Sciences, Healthcare and Science, Medical Sciences. That was taken as a role model by the World Health Organization, etc. So I started getting a lot of funding from the Government of India, to the extent that the maximum amount of funding for projects abroad I got as a diplomat. So sustainability became the key, and sustainability through local partnership, co-creation, discussion with the community which is going to be using it, and how do we ensure long-term continuity? So I think the chairs are set up now, and I'm going to, request the panelists to come onto the stage. And before they talk, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves very, very briefly for saving some more time, because I'm getting calls now from the organizers that we need to move forward very fast. So first of all, it's Nupur Tandon. Nupur, please come on. Let's give her a big hand. She is the founding director of Pro Waste Concepts. So when we start talking, I'll request you to speak for a minute about yourself before you present your subject, topic. Then we have Shri G.D. Yadav, Emeritus Professor of Eminence, ICT Mumbai. Please come, sir. Padma Shri, welcome. Then we have Abhishek Jain. Abhishek, Director, Green Economy and Impact Innovations, Council on Energy, Environment and Water. Welcome. Now, what I'm going to request all the speakers is to keep your talk like bullet points, focused for the future, not what you have done in the past, but how it is relevant for the future and how it will benefit the rural community. So try to keep focus on that, because the rural community of India is, of course, the biggest rural community in the world, more than any other continent, but just 897 million people is more than the population of the entire Western world. So if we are able to impact them in a sustainable fashion, you can understand the impact on the world. Templates for the world, leveraging technology for them, and also what the Western world always looks at, big market. So there's the biggest potential market for the world. So I will start with Nupur. I'm going to sit down there. Nupur, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Kapoor sir. I am founder, director of Pro Waste Concepts Private Limited, and it's a social enterprise which works at the grassroots level with communities to implement waste management processes so that no waste is transported to the landfills. So our vision is, we can say, a future without landfills, and we are working towards it. Our tagline is a call to action. So we work with people to change their mindset towards waste and how they handle waste in their day-to-day lives.
Good afternoon. This panel discussion is already delayed. I am Professor G.D. Yadav. I'm a National Science Chair, Government of India.
Very good.
And also, I was conferred the Bhatnagar Fellowship just 2 days back by the CSIR.
Wow.
So I've been working in this area of net zero, green hydrogen, decarbonization, waste biomass to chemicals, materials, fuels, and of course, the so-called net negative technologies. So people are talking about net zero, but I talk about net negative. I had made several slides. I didn't know exactly the format, but I'm told that it is only 30 minutes time. So I can certainly enlighten you by some more facts. This is the introduction, is that much, is it?
That's it.
Oh, thank you.
Good.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abhishek Jain. Started as a technologist, an IITian, but soon realized technology is not the panacea. So I work now on everything around technology to help bridge both social inequity as well as sustainability issues. A lot of focus on rural areas, so looking forward to the interaction.
Thank you so much. So I think we're going to go back to Nupur now. And do you have any slides, or are you going to be just speaking? Because if we speak and
No,
you
sir,
look
we
at
don't
it.
have slides.
Okay, that's awesome. Over to you, Nupur. Please, your presentation in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So I took a conscious decision to work with institutions, organizations to help them to handle their waste, to work with youngsters so that they understand what waste was, and then only I think the future would be, greener and better. So the waste in India is a product. I would call it a product, which is like it's the end of the priority for any organization, institutions, and most of the budgets which a campus has or our municipality has is used to transport all waste material to the landfills in our country, and we have failed to to keep our country clean. Today morning we spoke about, how our country is one of the biggest economies. It is growing, and how we talk about AI, sustainability, big jargons, but we all know that we are some of the dirtiest, most polluted cities in our country. We know what our AQI levels is. We have failed to work at the grassroots level. We have failed to create a systemic approach, a systemic change, a holistic change where waste is handled efficiently, where all stakeholders come together and find a solution to this problem. By stakeholders, I would mean the policy makers. Most of us would have not gone through environmental laws, but it is very well written. And the second most important stakeholders would be the municipalities who have absolutely failed to handle waste efficiently in most of the cities. What they do is just transport waste, and the crores of rupees, the part of their budget is used for transportation. And another stakeholders is us, who are generating waste, and we don't care. We just want to not change our consumption patterns, and we always pretend that this is not our problem. And of course, there is technology, which technologists are trying their best to address this big problem in our country. There is technology which just exists since many, many years. It can be recycling industry or biomethanization, and of course, a lot of new technologies are entering the market. A lot of entrepreneurs from IT or any other institutions are starting to address the issue of waste. They are, but the reality is that have we been able to change the ground level situation? Has AI helped to make our air cleaner, or has data helped, real-time data has helped to keep our streets clean or free from the waste dumps, which we are like, I think we've become very tolerant. I also say sometimes in our presentation that India is dirty because we Indians are very clean. So I would like to add on that, yes, technology is important. It has to be in tune with nature. We cannot work as a technology just in silos, and it has to have aspects of social, cultural, and of course, ancient wisdom, which we always had in our country. And only then we'll be able to at least see a cleaner and a better cities in our society. And I think it is the people who are most important who can bring the change. And of course, it has to be complemented with right, appropriate technology to handle that.
Thank you so much, Nupur. Talking about ancient wisdom, I am reminded of the chapter on Prithvi Sukta in the Atharva Ved, which is like an ode to the earth, how we have to respect the environment, the ecology, the earth. So that is like a visionary statement from thousands of years back for all that we are attempting to do today and tomorrow for the environment. So with that, I'll request Professor Yadav now to take over and make his presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to give you some startling statistics on environment. Just before the pandemic began, in January 2020, the CO2 concentration was 410 ppm. And you know that during that entire year, we hardly had any economic activity, but still in January 2021, it rose to 412 ppm. Today, within in June 2022, the economic activity was totally restored. That time, the concentration was 418 ppm. Today, it is 427 ppm. So what is responsible for this greenhouse gas? It is this carbon dioxide. So I say carbon dioxide should be taken as a feedstock to make chemicals, materials, polymers, etc., rather than taking that as a liability. So we need to develop technologies to take carbon dioxide. So we can convert carbon dioxide to methane, LPG, methanol, dimethyl ether, name it. That is a very important source. So that was, we require hydrogen. That is green hydrogen, water splitting. Another important issue is that by 2050, we will not be left with any crude oil. So what are you going to do for our survival? So that is where we will be using biomass, waste plastic, and whatever you think of as the feedstock. We convert that into hydrocarbons, and that is what we will be doing. So very interestingly, you know, last year, in the year 2023, we emitted 40.6 gigatons, billion tons of carbon dioxide across the world. Last year, 2024, it was 41.6 gigatons. That means our carbon dioxide concentration was going up. And it is predicted by the World Meteorological Organization that by 2027, our targeted goal of 1.5 degrees C will be overshot. So what are we going to do? We have to develop technology for decarbonization, taking carbon out of the economy. We require carbon in the soil. We require carbon for our survival, but we don't require too much carbon in the atmosphere. That is the mantra. So quite interestingly, another important thing, because he was talking about farmers and all, 100 million metric tons of agri-waste is burned by the farmers. And you cannot go to Delhi these days. It is all, you know, I don't know, air quality index 500 plus, PM 2.5 very high, so we can't land there. Instead of giving freebies to the farmers, ask them to collect this agri-waste, condense it, pelletize it, and take to the nearby place where it can be chemically, biologically, or any other means converted into value-added products, chemicals, materials. So farmer can benefit by that. So for instance, if you have cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, normally lignin is burned as a cogen. Most of the sugar factories do that. It's the wrong policy. Lignin is a very good source of making chemicals, fuels, materials. C5, C6, cellulose, hemicellulose, I can create a lot of sugars. Jokingly, I say farmers need not go sugarcane because it is a highly water-intensive crop. I can make sugars from hemicellulose. So there are technologies which we have been working in many of these areas. I believe we have to tell the farmers, I will give you 5 rupees incentive, bring this back to you. So pollution in Delhi and all around, that will be taken care of. But it is a political problem. Another important thing is plastic ban is a stupid idea. I'm telling you that because I'm telling it with authority. Plastic saved us during this pandemic, COVID. Why the plastic pollution? Because it is free. Anything given free is never appreciated. You go to any marriage party, you take a lot of food, it looks attractive, and because it is free, you dump it. 50% of municipal solid waste is food and other particles, carbon. 10 to 12% is plastic. If there was a deposit, for example, on the plastic bottle, they say 20 or 30 rupees. These bottles will disappear within no time once we leave this hall. Because it will be encouraged to return it. And segregation takes 80% of the funds in MSW to segregate this plastic. So that is where hydrogen plays a very important role. So water splitting. So if you are water splitting, you generate hydrogen and oxygen. Both of these things are important for converting waste biomass, waste plastic into variety of chemicals and materials. For example, hydrogenation of waste plastic, all sorts of plastic, whether it is nylon, or polythene bags, or anything else, or PVC, that when we convert it into hydrocarbons. And the remaining technologies, whether it is HCl, ammonia, H2S, these are known to petroleum industry, petrochemical industry. So I think it is wrong to give anything free to farmers. They should be encouraged to recycle this thing, that public should be encouraged. Just today's headline, 50 kilo of plastic was seized somewhere and the fellow was fined. Although plastic is banned, everywhere you will find plastic. And why? Because it is dirt cheap. Thinner and thinner, stronger and stronger. So the Bhayaji gives us more plastic bags than you require. So I think if there is a barcode and recyclability is encouraged, people will recycle it. Like housewives never throw the newspaper as a waste. In fact, the raddi is more valuable than the content in it. They get a lot of money. So if another person comes to your home and collects waste plastic and returns your money, maybe he gives 5% commission, you will save the environment. This is what the government is missing. Another idea. We are talking about bioethanol. We also do a lot of work. The government's policy to mix bioethanol in the fuel is good for short term because you can reduce the import. But at the same time, bioethanol is a very good feedstock to make 11 different bulk chemicals and 19 different special chemicals. It will fetch you more. That is what should be the policy. Maybe government of India should do it by 2035. Make bioethanol, but farmers can benefit by that rather than burning it as a fuel. So my contention is that no carbon should be there in the fuel. It will be solar, wind, and hydrogen. Hydrogen will be the savior. I call this as the new trinity. Hydrogen is the savior because hydrogen can be used for converting any carbonious material into chemicals, fuels, and other things. So net zero is not the solution. Net negative is the solution. And that is what we have to emphasize. We have to emphasize net negative. And we can do it the nature's way. And another thing people talk about, they blame, they say, okay, I will have, for example, pesticides should not be used. There should not be used. Why you are banning that? Because you think it is killing the biospecies. Our farmers, now we are talking about drone technology. Why don't you teach them drone technology where precise amount of the pesticide or fertilizer for that matter is sprayed and it goes to there, rather than the farmer wants to see the bug dead on the spot. He doesn't want to wait for 2 days. He says, unless the bug dies, my pesticide is not effective. And so all spurious kinds of pesticides are there in the market. So I think we have to relook at our policy. Policy will make the whole difference. We have decided to reduce our carbon dioxide concentration in India per se because I'm a member of some of these committees. I chair the hydrogen committee. So I'm telling you that 45% carbon dioxide we want to reduce by 2030. We want to have 500 gigawatt of energy. My contention is that make it 900 gigawatts. Let us be energy producing country, exporting green energy rather than importing crude oil. By that, we can earn a lot of foreign exchange and we will benefit. For that, industry must be given incentive. In our country, sometimes these overzealous people, politicians be that, and also journalists, they will call the industrialist a chore. What nonsense. Which country calls their industrialist a chore? Only in India it is done. If the industries are not there, there cannot be any progress. People should know that. This is a very important message. We must respect your industrialists because they can generate primary, secondary, tertiary, ultimately Panwala will be there, right? Or somebody will be there. So these kind of things will be generated provided we support our industries. And so, United States, what they have done, green hydrogen. 1-1-1 policy. 1 kilo hydrogen in $1 in 1 decade. By 2031, US Department of Energy says we will have that policy. They are giving $3 incentive. That means the cost of green hydrogen is not less than $7, $8. What is our country doing? So I was talking about this in many of my lectures. I said our Ministry of Power should also give incentive. Of course, they are saying 50 rupees, 40 rupees. No, I think it should be more than that. If we give incentive to our industries, we will earn more money. In fact, Germany is saying they need 10 million tons. And also, same is the case with Nordic countries, Australia, Netherlands, they want hydrogen. Why we should not encourage hydrogen? Why we should not encourage green energy? One of the problems in this green energy, solar energy, Ram mentioned something. In the year 2000, we started this solar energy and wind energy. Their life is 20 to 24 years. Now, so many million tons of this material is available, whether it's aluminum, steel, rare earths, name it. Why not recycle them? So chemical engineering will have a great future. Chemical engineering will be called recycle engineering. Chemical engineering is what ultimately? I'm a chemical engineer. What it will be? It will be physical rate processes, biological processes, chemical rate processes, including nuclear. And our job is to increase the rate and reduce the volume, reduce waste, process intensification. So chemical engineering, by definition, is sustainability engineering. To conclude, what I want to tell you that hydrogen is going to be the savior of this world. Right. Our policy should be that we encourage our government. And remember, the so-called 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature, our CO2 emissions in the atmosphere should be less than 10 gigatons, 10 billion tons. Then only it is 1.5 degrees. Right now it is 41.6. That means you have to take out so much of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Thank you.
I will be very happy to answer any question.
Thank you, Professor Yadav. That was absolutely wonderful. So it reminds me of an article I read some time back, that out of the 20 most polluted cities in the world, guess how many were from India? 13. You said 16, you are not far off the mark. And the top 3, number 1, number 2, number 3, most polluted cities in the world in India. So anyway, and you mentioned about pollution and you raised very interesting questions about waste. Those are all very important points to ponder. I also want to mention to you very briefly, Professor Yadav, when you talk about, agriculture, there's also one organization which is called Sajivan Foundation. Their president and founder is here. We should have a talk separately because they have come across a very, very brilliant template of you taking all the weeds in the villages which are occupying and taking over the fields, Lantana Camera and Julie Flora and others, and converting into organic fertilizer. So you don't have the chemical fertilizer, you're giving land back to the farmers, you're reclaiming it, and you're creating a lot of value and you're getting a lot of carbon credits for that. So they are very important partners with Wheels now. We have initiated a big project in the Aravali district in North Gujarat with them. We'll be expanding the footprint much more. So there are many multiple benefits, but that we'll get in separately offline when we meet with the Mr. Sandeep Sabharwal, who's here with us. So now I'm going to also request our friend, Abhishek Jain from IIT to address us for a few minutes, very quickly. And after that, I'm going to request everybody to just come in with 1 minute of your vision statement in a few words, less than a minute, a few seconds. So, over to Abhishek.
I think the first thing I wanted to draw our attention to, this whole idea of, there are 3 phrases that I caught from the title: can, technology, and nature-friendly. So I'm going to dwell on these 3 a little bit. Can, yes, but is it always? By no means it is a yes. We often struggle with the trade-offs where there is environment at one side, there is convenience at other side, there is affordability or economics at other side. And economics, mind you, in the current rules of the game, if you start pricing in externality, as someone else was saying earlier, you would change the rules of the game. If you start pricing that plastic sheet at 40 rupees instead of 40 paisa, you would change the rules of the game. So that's the can part and the trade-off part around it. But the nature-friendly, I think we need to unpack this nature. Many times we take the siloed approach within nature. We are right now obsessed with climate change as the problem when it comes to environment. But there are 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries that we are breaching. Whether it is the nitrogen and phosphorus cycle, whether it is the unknown new materials that we have introduced into the environment, whether it is the freshwater cycle and so on, and the biodiversity loss as well. So the moment you siloed out one particular environmental issue and start solving for it, we only solve as technologists in a reductionist fashion. We'll get the carbon problem solved, but we'll not have the biodiversity and pollinators to actually grow our food. We'll get the climate problem solved, but we'll not have water to actually drink. So unless we start realizing that these are systemic issues and there are trade-offs between them, only a tunnel vision to solve climate is not going to help. And within climate, we have another tunnel vision. We are obsessed with only green energy and energy transition. We think all the emissions are coming from burning energy and fossil fuels, so let's just change the source of energy and our problem will be solved. But we never ask the question, where is that energy actually going? Just to give you one example, 2 commodities, which are the most energy-guzzling and emissions-guzzling commodities in the world, is cement and steel. Half of the industrial emission globally are just because of these 2 commodities. Our answer to solving for cement and steel emissions is change the fuel to green hydrogen and still use the same cement and steel the way we construct our infrastructure, our buildings, and so on. Why not ask the question, can I change the material? Can I change the building design so that I need far less material? Can I change the design of the urban infrastructure environment so that I need far less built environment? A building like this has very low utilization. It is hardly getting used in the night hours. And there are many places which are only getting used in the night, like hotels and so on, and have no use in the day. Can we reimagine our building spaces, built environment, so that they have far more utilization and we have far less built environment in all? So asking these questions, I think even engineers, innovators are not getting the right signals from the intelligentsia, from the knowledge economy, that we need to innovate beyond just the green energy. We need to innovate differently in terms of design of the products and services, differently in terms of the material choices that we are doing. And then, even if you bring up with new technology, you need to skill people to actually be able to work with these new technologies. In India, one study cites that there is a shortage of 40 million green construction workers. So you can come up with new materials, but unless you're able to skill them, you'll not be seeing them adopted mainstream. If your masons are only going to use bricks and concrete, you're not going to change the way buildings are getting developed. Yet another thing that I want to like to highlight is that technology needs to come along with these other elements, be it skilling, be it end-user financing to adopt the technology. I run one of the programs where we have been supporting many entrepreneurs who are coming up with green technologies for rural areas, be it solar dryers, waste biomass-powered cold storages, vertical hydroponics-based fodder growing stations, and many other, almost 25 out of them that we have been supporting. And you realize that technology is great. Sometimes affordability is a challenge, but the same end user cannot afford the technology, so you're bringing in end user finance. So you need to solve the financing piece. If you have not trained the person to use the technology well, it remains standard. So you've created a green technology, but it is actually standard. So there are still resources going into it, but not getting used. So unless you solve all that other pieces of the ecosystem, whether it is policy, whether it is finance, whether it is skilling, whether it is market linkage for the ultimate end product, you're not going to solve this problem. And I think the one piece that you said when it comes to rural areas, we often actually think of them only as market. And I think that's the problem. Right now, rural India is what is driving the growth, economic growth of this country through the demand that it is creating. One back of the envelope estimate that I did about a year ago now, there is a 20 lakh crore worth of market only for 20 commodities that are being consumed in rural areas, including paints, cement, FMCG products, and so on and so forth. And a lot of that is not actually things which the rural area cannot produce for itself. All of these things can be produced. I mean, I have seen Ashirwad atta, packaged atta in the rural shops now. All that raw material is actually coming from the rural areas at the first place. And there is no fun in creating long loops of the same material moving to the urban center, getting processed, and coming back to the rural area. And then we say, how can I solve the transport problem and the emissions of the transport? If you'll only think of EV as a transport problem to be solved, then we're not going to solve this system-level problem that we are looking at. So technology innovation is important, but I think we need to focus a lot more on systems-level innovation. The moment we redefine the problem, we start really looking at answers in different parts of the world rather than saying, OK, I just need to solve the energy silo. And if any of you would have, I think many of us as engineers would have come across control systems as a subject when we were doing our engineering. Just use some of those feedback loops of the control system into the real world, and the system is called system dynamics or systems thinking. I would urge you all to read an essay of Domela Meadows, which talks about how to think in systems. I think as technologists, often we also become reductionist. We do really think of that very siloed, small problem that I need to solve. I improve the energy efficiency and things are great, without realizing what that energy was needed at the first place for.
Thank you.
So yeah, so let me stop there.
Thank you so much, Abhishek Jain. A big round of applause. So, such a pleasure to listen to you, Abhishek. Such a lot of wisdom at this young age, and I'm sure you'll, impact the world in a very significant manner, at least the rural population also. And it just brings to my mind about how the public policy landscape is slowly changing in India, in the sense that when I joined the Foreign Service in '79, we as IAS or IFS or civil servants, there was a big, massive barrier between us and any outside world in terms of their capacity to approach us or their capacity to get information or their capacity to contribute to policy. So public administration was mixed up completely with public policy. And we thought that whatever we wrote was the most brilliant piece of paper. When I went to US to teach at the University of Maryland, College Park in the School of Public Policy, I suddenly realized how important it is to the formulation of policy. And since then, I have been trying to contribute to this thought that it is very essential for the government also to create a whole ecosystem of public policy in this country, also by creating jobs for the graduates who want to go to public policy. So how do we do that is another big question which has to be answered. So now back to you, Nupur, to give your contribution for in less than a minute, because we are way behind time, as we can see on this clock also.
So as I said, our vision of our pro-waste concepts is a future without landfills. So what has to be done at the ground level to achieve that vision? So I dream that the bridge or the gaps, how do we fill those gaps between the technology and the research which is happening in academy, and how does that penetrate at the ground level? We have a lot of research papers on waste, but how do we implement that at the root level, maybe in the rural areas or even in the campuses, so that the people actually practice what they have learned. There's a huge gap there. There's a huge gap where the policies or the rules which are mentioned and it is not being followed in the real day-to-day lives, when we are segregating waste at source, or we are collecting waste, or we are, we are doing our waste disposal for all categories of waste. So I also always question people that, do we know where our waste is going? It is all ending up in the landfills. And then we have now a lot of research and technology which is talking about, bio-remediation of the landfills. So can we have systems, can we have infrastructure at the ground level that our waste is not transported to the landfills and all our waste is converted into the resource? And then only we can achieve actually a greener and living spaces in our country.
Thank you.
And we'll be getting rid of the waste piles.
Thank you, Nupur. Over to Professor Yadav.
Thank you.
Yeah, big
Thank
round
you.
of applause.
You know, I just want to tell you something. I've been working in this area of generation of green hydrogen by water splitting, and I claim, I've got several patents, international patents, where we claim that for 100 tons a day, we can produce hydrogen at less than $1. So some pilot experiments are going. 4 companies are working with me for methanol, dimethyl ether, methane, and also hydrogen. That is one part of the story. So far as India is concerned, we should be carbon-free energy using country. So that means solar, wind, geothermal, nuclear, and hydrogen. World as a whole, by 2050, will require almost 840 million metric tons of hydrogen. And if you look at the energy scenario, 49,000 terawatt hours. Of that, India should aim for 10,000 terawatt hours and be exporters of energy so that we will win it. Another thing, just yesterday, Prime Minister was talking about this green fuel, and we should be having green cars and electric cars, EV. If the energy comes from coal-driven power plants, it is CV, it is not EV. You may be using electric drive, but the electricity has to be produced and it has to be renewable. So coal, and we will be still using coal by 2050. So this is one important thing we should know. We may not have pollution in the city, but somewhere else it is. There's a system engineering, okay? So we must develop systems, energy efficient systems, carbon free, and all carbon should be used for creation of chemicals, materials, polymers, etc. That is what I'm saying.
Thank you very much.
And ethanol should be used for some time because we can reduce the import duty. We spend a lot of money on that, and that should be used for making chemicals.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
That's what I'm saying.
Abhishek.
I would say 3 quick things. One, think in the terms of systems. And a good question to ask typically is that, what trade-offs am I making? Who is actually losing in the choice that I'm making? Or where am I losing in the choice that I'm making? Second, whenever you think of scaling up, like as entrepreneurs, we often like to scale up our solutions. Do think of the context. We often ignore the context as we scale up a solution. We think something is working great here, let me scale it up to the entire country. That doesn't necessarily work well unless you are actually contextualizing it to the context. And third, I would say it's tempting to solve the tail end problems. Waste is getting generated here, let me solve for the waste stream, and what can I do in terms of value add, et cetera, et cetera. But it's actually far more higher leverage in the system if you actually start solving it at the design stage itself, like how the products and services are getting designed so that we generate less waste at the first place.
Thank you.
Those are the 3 things.
A big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next part of the program now. Shri Praful Kulkarni, request you to come up to the stage quickly. Welcome. Nice to see you. Kulkarni is the next star speaker for us. He is the CEO of GKK Works and Canon Design. So we have just about 10 minutes. Yes. You want to sit here? Come. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Are related to where we are going together as a society, as humanity. And the context here is what is happening in India, what is happening internationally, especially in the US, and the design and construction industry we talked about how damaging it can be for the environment. So 40% of global warming is caused by buildings, existing buildings, and building materials that are being manufactured. So this is the context I want to talk to you about. And I'm just going to go quickly and show images that will provoke some thoughts for you. First of all, let me talk about Canon Design a little bit. We are about 1,300 people in the US. We also have a Mumbai office. We also have a Toronto, Canada office. And we design hospitals. We are one of the top firms in the world. Some of you are going to hear from the Mayo Clinic. Manish Goyal, he runs the COO of the platform. We are doing probably the largest project in the world for him. It's over $5 billion. We design airports. So a lot of the work that we do is carbon producing, embodied carbon as well as carbon continuation. So what are we doing? We are wanting to go in a direction where we can go, I would like to say minus, not just net zero, but minus zero, but I mean, should be a good aspiration for all of us. So what we're doing in the US, by the way, I come from the Los Angeles area. The evidence is clear that the global warming is really hurting us with the latest fires. So we have already signed a pledge to go carbon neutral in our buildings by 2030. The Mechanical, Electrical, and Plumbing Engineering Society has done the same by 2040, and the structural engineers have done the same for structural engineering and materials. So I clearly want to talk about zero energy, zero carbon, zero harm, zero water, and zero waste. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. As a firm, we are the top firm in the US that is very green. And we have won the Metropolis Planet Positive Award in 2024, Firm of the Year. Time Magazine has mentioned us in terms of a firm that is actually building net zero into reality. So let's talk about the Indian context a little bit. We are, in India, water stressed. We are the most water stressed country in Asia. If the climate warming goes to 1.5 degrees Celsius, 10 to 40 million people are going to have to migrate internally to different parts of the country. It's going to be a huge effort and cost. And these are all statistics coming from research institutes that I can share with you. We are 18% of the population, and we only have 4% of fresh water. So water scarcity is another large issue for us. And when you start to look at, and this issue came up, the farmers are not paying for the water. The city dwellers and the industries are paying for water. So given this context, I just wanted to frame a few things of what we should be doing and could be doing. And so let's start about architecture, engineering, buildings. Use infrastructure as an asset. This is a wastewater treatment facility. I'll give you an example. In the Los Angeles area, I come from Orange County, which is on the coast, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach. I live in Laguna Beach. We actually have solutions where 10% of the water that we drink comes from wastewater conversion. So we are way ahead in terms of thinking what could be done. Look at carbon as a liability. We talked about this. And liability needs to be taken off our financial books, just like accounting. And we need to do that. Let's design for 80%, not 100%, so that the MEP engineering can look at how that can be done. And when there is condensation in the air conditioning area, let's look at those byproducts and how we can put them to use. Nature. Nature has always been an amenity, and we are big in healthcare, so we know that nature heals. We also know that students learn better in natural environments. Let's put that in play. Use diversity as an asset. Diversity across the board. Diversity of systems, diversity of people, diversity of thought, and use that as an opportunity to make us greener. We have so much energy in India that we don't utilize. On all our building sites, we literally have 1,000 times more energy coming onto our site through solar, and we're not taking full advantage of that. So energy as an income. Then look at materials, and we talked a little bit about this, of how we can create materials that are that are not so heavy carbon produced materials, and take every project for that opportunity to go forward. Resiliency as a strength. Look at the worst possible things that can happen to us, but learn from those stresses and how we can make them better. Reusing materials rather than throwing them into waste dump yards and landfills. Make sure that our materials that we are currently using are not thrown away and they're reused, because the embodied carbon in these materials is very strong. Use our buildings as a seed to create our communities that are very livable and friendly. So each building, when you think about designing a building, see what impact it is going to have to make our communities better as a starting point and as a positive impact. Modularity is beautiful. It can be beautiful. We know it is efficient, it is productive, and it can be beautiful. And it is in nature. I just wanted to show you these images so that you can start to get, I'm very optimistic, by the way, about where we can go with this. As long as we all come together as a society and humanity to do that. Yeah. So I'm almost there. So let kind of nature heal us. Let that time as a curator process from landfills to green, just an example. Waste. Everything that we consume, if there is waste, we can put that to a better use in terms of compost, for example. Food, half the landfills are full of food. There are ways to solve that at the local level. Use past as a prologue. Not how we should repeat it, but use that as the past and where we can find new opportunities. Use traditions as a blindfold so that we can imagine with technology, with imagination of where things can go. And if you do things on small scale and they're not working, scale it to a higher level and see if that is more effective. Buildings last for a long time. Technology changes. And make sure that we create space for technology to change within buildings. look at what today is, plan for the future. And hope is inexhaustible. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. We are running quite behind time, but I want to mention that the speakers are all entitled to some mementos, and even if we are not able to give it to you on stage, we'll give it to you off stage. I'm going to request, Dr. Ram to take over for a minute very quickly. There's another surprise launch by IIT Madras. Okay. He will just clarify very quickly.
Yeah, I'll just take about 30 seconds. There is an announcement that's going to be made by the IIT's Madras faculty and their innovation hubs. They are launching a social impact platform, and I'm going to request Max Narsimhan to give us a quick 1 minute on that, please. And this announcement is on behalf of Pan IIT Social Impact Arm, Wheels.
Thank you very much, Ramji. Good afternoon, everyone. I know I'm the one standing between you and lunch. I will make it very short. But today marks a very transformative step towards building a better future. We are thrilled to announce the launch of Impact Collaboration Platform, an initiative of Wheels Global Foundation and Societal Impact Action Group of IIT. This platform is more than just a digital tool. It's a dynamic ecosystem designed to connect change makers, foster collaboration, and amplify societal impact. So from innovators and policymakers to grassroots organizations, the ICP, or the Impact Collaboration Platform, empowers individuals and institutions to address critical global challenges through shared resources, knowledge, and actionable solutions. So imagine tackling water scarcity, healthcare gaps, or education inequalities by harnessing the power of collective expertise and cross-sector partnership. With the features like project matchmaking, resource sharing, and measurable impact tracking, we aim to turn the ideas into action. Thank you very much for your time. And it's at impactcollaborationplatform.org.
This is a very important development. You can share the details with the participants through the PIWOT website also, because I'm sure it'll be very useful.
Great.
So thank you very much.
There are already 59 registered solutions on the platform, and the platform is continuing to grow.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Big round of applause. And now we come to the last speaker of this session, Viti Bindra, IIT Delhi, and he is with Kyndryl currently. He's a global executive and strategic advisor. Viti, you have 10 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you. So this is working now. Hi. Sustainability since morning, and now we have to make this world a better place to live. My talk today is on the AI. Especially AI is growing, and yeah, thank you. So AI is growing, and I can show the yeah. So AI is going fast, and I have got a passion to connect AI with the sustainability. So that's my part of the job professionally, and I'm very near and dear to that area. How AI can make the difference in the world. So again, a lot of we have discussed about technologies, how these things are changing at all. So I just want to go through some of the things which I have observed in the last few years, working for Kyndryl, working with Microsoft, working with some professor at Stanford, MIT, what they think about AI and sustainability. So if you see on the graph, the Google Trends, prior to 2021, nobody was Googling this AI as sustainability word. Now you see how the things are changing. It's going up. And rightfully so, as using AI for environmental application could contribute 5.2 trillion US dollars to the global economy in 2030, and that will create 38.2 million new jobs. And that will finally reduce 2.4 gigatons of carbon emission worldwide. So this is going to save us if you think in that direction. So my immediate thing was like what happened in LA, California, as Praful was mentioning, the wildfires, we could have used the AI design tools to decrease the total impact of these fires. What happened recently in India and Pakistan in the last 5 years, the percentage of the smog, the pollution was the highest. So these are the issues which we have to take care of as we are going ahead. So I'll request all the people sitting in the room here, we have to think, this is a worrisome issues. This is not going to change automatically. We have to really implement AI in this solution. So my goal today is to go through a status quo, what we are doing today, and what are the hurdles we have to overcome, the roadblocks in the AI and sustainability field. I'll make it very simple. Like no higher technology, we all from IITs and we all are technocrats, but the rubber has to meet the road. How the technology will go to that level to make this effect. And finally, I will just go over my way forward. What is the next step we are going to take? So looking at the slide, the status quo where we are today, efficiency, AI is boosting in every sustainable domain. Everywhere you talk about, any domain you talk about, AI is there. Whether it is environmental, is social, economical, mines, water, everything is there. AI is there. Second thing is supercharging team. AI is previously, we are trying to resolve the existing complex problems with the AI, which were there for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Now we are using AI to solve these problems. That's a supercharging teams are working in all this big organization. Resources, we are really investing a lot of resources in this AI resources to make this work. So there's active investment going on in the AI field. In all the big companies like Microsoft and Google, they are spending billions and billions of dollars to make this work. And finally, the literature, the government organization, the enterprises, the Ivy League institutes, all are publishing literature on AI. And the literature is growing tremendously on social networks. So you can read anything about AI, but how that's going to affect us. So I'll give you some specific example. The first example is, everybody knows about Google DeepMind. This is the AI-powered tool which has been designed to reduce energy consumption by 40%. Thanks to Google for doing this. Second one is a tool designed by NVIDIA, ForecastNet, that can predict the weather behaviors. It can predict the turbulence in the air before you hit the turbulence. This was never there in the last 5 or 10 years. The new thing has happened. Another example is OpenMind AI. I am an ex-naval officer. A lot of illegal mining, illegal fishing happens. Now, there are tools designed by the non-profits to detect the illegal fishing detections globally. Like I didn't imagine that on the top 10 use cases of AI, this fishing was one of them. It's not only we talk about AI about clean water, environment, everything is getting AI endorsed. And we have to use it in a proper way. And finally, the example is of growing literature. I'm from Kyndryl. So we have joined hands with Microsoft, and we came up with a global sustainability barometer study. And this was while talking to 1,500 sustainability leaders in 20 different countries coming from 9 different industries. And what they told us about was how the AI has to be included in the sustainability initiatives globally in the organization to make it impactful. So that study is 26 pages, which has been distributed globally. So going ahead to my goals today, what are the hurdles? What are the shortcomings we have? What we can do? The first is the AI tools, they're power hungry. They need a lot of power, they need a lot of resources to work. We have to feed them all the time. The second hurdle is the regulatory mismatch. A lot of countries in their silos, they are developing AI governance, AI strategies, and they are not making the effort to consolidate all the technology advancement happening in different countries and come up to a global level in one scale. That's not happening. People are doing their own stuff in different countries. Being a global expert, I have 42 countries to manage. So I travel a lot. So every country I come, they have got their own AI governance, AI protocols. Everything is different. So they are not talking one language. They have to talk one language to make it happen. And finally, societal implication. There's inequality. As today in Dr. Raghu was saying in the morning, the big disparity between rich and poor, and the AI, the way we are working is all the rich nations, they will be getting the advantages of AI in a big way as compared to third world countries. We have to make sure this thing doesn't stay in America and Europe. It comes to India. How that will make a difference here? So these are the hurdles. Again, examples. ChatGPT. I think everybody in the room uses ChatGPT. Can you imagine how much electricity is used for one query on ChatGPT? 10 times more than Google research. So you all are generating carbon footprint. You all are adding to the global thermal warming because of using a ChatGPT. We have to come up with some models, how we can reduce the power which these tools are using. Second is a mismatch. In the Stanford study in 2023, more than 60 countries have got their own AI governance rules and regulations. They don't talk to each other. So you have to have a unified effort to do all these things. It's not happening right now. And the last is the Oxford Insight. They said that 181 countries have found that the lowest scoring age in AI readiness. So the rich countries are implementing AI. And the poor countries, they don't have those models even ready to implement. So there's a big disparity between the rich nations and so-called the third world countries. So we have to bridge this gap. Finally, the way forward. What is way forward? As Dr. Raman said, these are the sustainability goals, 17, and we are lacking in these goals. This has to be accomplished by 2030. It's not going to happen. And the million-dollar question is, why they are lacking? So again, I go to the barometer study, which was done by Microsoft and Kyndryl. We came up with the three main things why these goals are lacking. The first one is 84% of organizations, 84%, they have got their sustainability goal in their books, but only 20% of them are using for their strategies. The good material to sit on the shelf, but they're not using those strategies for the projects, data-driven projects. That's a big gap there. Second one is 54% businesses, they feel the sustainability goals and initiatives are incorporated in their ecosystem, but 19% are using those goals for the decision making, for strategic planning. I'm a CEO of a company. I have got the goals to do the whole world. We have to walk the talk. We should not be doing the corporate window shopping. We have to more than that. Most of the corporates are doing corporate window shopping right now. They are putting things on the shelf, but they're not implementing things. And the final thing was they found that 55% organization have got these goals, and 65% of the people are using these AI initiative to do the Excel and Word and PowerPoint. They're using the AI for those reasons, to basically analyze the data. They're not doing any predictive analysis. They're not doing any quantum computing. They're using AI for the historical data. We have to come up from that whole ecosystem. AI is not only for historical data. AI is there for prediction future. So that's all from my side. Calls to action was how to blend technology with sustainability teams, go beyond reports, and of course, think bigger. So everybody in this room has a task to make sure it happens. And that's all from my side.
Big round of applause.
Any questions you have, let me know. I'm working with the academias, I'm working with the industry experts, I'm working with the government organization, non-profits to make it work. Talk to me if you have any idea. We can go deep dive into all the AI technologies happening in the global world.
Thank you very much. To the audience also, big round of applause for all of you for being here with us so patiently. And now over to Advait.
Thank you, sir.
Can I request all the speakers and panelists of this session to come on stage, please?
Okay, so I think we are delayed as Advait said. People are still having a good lunch, looks like. So let them come slowly. But let's not wait for all of them. We have to achieve our objectives. So I am Ashank Desai. I am, of course, track leader here, and you will have to bear with me next 1.5 hours. I come here as, of course, chairman of WILS India. WILS is an organization which is in partnership with Pan IIT. And these two tracks that we have, this one and other parallel to it, is run by WILS. And WILS is actually an organization started by IITians many years ago that way. In 2006, when I had organized Mumbai, I went 16 years ago, 18 years ago, a similar event. And Abdul Kalam was that time addressed to us, saying that what you are doing for country. You have got a good education, you are doing well, please give back to the nation. And that inspired this group of IITians from US who had come here. Some of them are here, Mr. Shenoy, then Hiten, and so on, Hiten Ghosh, and so on. They started this organization called WILS. It was not very active for a few years, but last 7-8 years, we have been extremely active. WILS has some importance to the track that we are speaking. So I must talk about WILS here. WILS is about W, which is water. H is about health. E is about education. Second E is about energy. L is about livelihood. And S is about sustainability. So our idea of WILS is to work in rural and semi-urban area. Rural and semi-urban, we are not doing in urban area, that's not our focus. So work with the people who are poor, who needs upliftment in all these areas that I talked. We have a large vision, of course. We would like to impact at some stage, maybe 5 years, 7, 8 years, 10 years from now, at least 20% of people in these areas of rural and urban all over India. So we have a very tall vision. It will all have to be done step by step, as you would guess. But I'll quickly give you an overview of what we are doing presently. In water, we have done a lot of work in Himachal Pradesh, in rural areas again, to do a work where stream of water get wasted, how to use it. Beyond that, we are now working in the Delhi area also in this particular track. We have few other areas in water too. We don't have time to talk all that because you have all come to hear also our speakers here. In health, we are doing very interesting work. We have got even some doctors from US. Some of them are here, Dr. Raj Shah, Bindu Kansupada. They are not IITians, but they are part of us as a group. And they said that we would like to do something with you. And we are doing a lot of work in telemedicine area in multiple states today as we speak. In education, we are very interesting. Our one Mr. Professor Kannan is heading that track for education, and he has something what is called as spoken tutorials, which is about training. Earlier in his past 7-8 years, he was working in the area of IT education through spoken tutorial. Again, I don't have time to go into all the details, so I'll be very brief. But we are now using it in Madhya Pradesh for health area in terms of training the maternity and other ASHA workers, etc., for getting them about women health and women-related issues and so on. In energy, we are also doing some work, and livelihood, we are doing very interesting work in Aravalli. And some of that we are talking today may have some implication to it. Aravalli is a place very near between Rajasthan and Gujarat. It's a district, and we are working there with 5-6 villages We also have partnership there with IEEE, and there we are doing village transformation through building livelihood amongst the people, poor people there, through skill education. So skills is one particular track that we are doing. We are working with IEEE, as I said, and we do that kind of work there. Then next one that is of importance is we also have in livelihood, we are trying to train the poor villagers to become entrepreneurs in terms of the products that they can make and sell. And there is an organization called Sweri in Pandharpur, and Wheels has a partnership with this Sweri, and we are supporting the Sweri organization, and there is a movement going to be in terms of entrepreneurship building, which is also a livelihood issue. And we also have now signed up with what is called as Rural Shores. Rural Shores is an organization which does a BPO with the rural people. They really train the people who are rural in or semi-urban area, and they then deliver BPO services to Indian customers in banks, insurance, and so on. It's again amazing story by itself, and we have again tied up. Wheels has tied up with Rural Shores to see that they can go to more villages. Again, the livelihood part of what Wheels is doing. So what is Wheels? Wheels is not doing something themselves. Wheels is a catalyst. Wheels is about seeing that the large organizations which are doing some interesting work can be supported, particularly those who are driving through technology, because Wheels is about IIT people, technology people. So one of our aims is to see that technology is used to make change happen in rural areas, which is what the session today is. And what we are trying to do there is creating a mass of large number of NGOs who are working and helping them to scale, helping them to connect with the kind of technology connection we have in US with our US people, IITians and others. We have connections in India because we have at the highest level, we have partnership with Niti Aayog in certain areas, with MP government in certain areas, and so on and so forth. Under our name and credibility, people want to partner with us. We can help all these NGOs to scale up. So that's the way we are acting. We are a catalyst, but we have a large aim. So Wheels India has a board in US and board in India, and I am chairman of that India board, which is looking at implementation of all these projects in all the states. I'll talk a little bit more if time permits later, but now let me start straight with this track. As you know, this track is about using technology in agri-tech area and rural areas, and we'll debate and we'll speak to many of these organizations who are doing some interesting work. We have speakers, we have panel discussions. I'll introduce them as they come one after another. But to start with, we have our real star speaker here in Dr. Desh Deshpande. Give him a big hand. So Desh, many of you know, I am not going to kind of spend a lot of time introducing him because he has done such a great work earlier as an entrepreneur. He was a very successful, he's from IIT Madras and then went to US, and he has done a great work as an entrepreneur, and now he has established a Deshpande Foundation, which is doing some tremendously important work in Hubli. Dharwad is his headquarters. He's doing work all over India, I'm sure, but working as creating sandboxes, particularly, and creating entrepreneurship, leadership to make change happen in rural areas. And I think he is an example for many other philanthropists as to follow his model. And he's a good friend for many years. I have gone there, seen what he has done, and really inspired the kind of work that we do. I don't want to spend a lot of time to embarrass him, I'm sure, with all the great work that he's doing. But what he's going to talk is technology to make change happen is what our motto, as I said, in Wheels. However, he has a viewpoint which we all should be listening very carefully is what is a technology which is working very well today all over India. There is an India stack, there is Aadhaar. All this is working fine, maybe mostly in urban areas and many other technologies. We have to be sensitive to what it means to do same thing in rural areas. With his great experience in rural and villages and making transformation happen, I think there can't be a better person than him to talk about this important change or important focus or important perspective that we need to have in Wheels as well as all of you to make change happen. So can I invite Desh? Please give him a big hand.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Ashank. I want to leave you with some very simple messages. And, we all come from the technology background, most of us in this room. And the world has about 8 billion people. And you can split them up into 3 billion people who have disposable income and about 5 billion people who don't have disposable income. And if you look at government, entrepreneurs, universities, or each one of us as individuals, all of us try to live our life trying to make a difference in the lives of these two sets of people. But the way you make a difference in the life of these two sets of people is a little different. When people have disposable income, like everybody else in this room, you have options. So when you have options, people have to compete for the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of these people, the people who have disposable income. They're not going to say just because you have something that they would buy into it. You have to bring something new, something innovative. So if you want to make a difference in the lives of the people with disposable income, you need something innovative, competitive, something better than what they would get from anywhere else. And in fact, that's what drives the economy. That's what's happened in the last 50 years in terms of innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups and everything else. And they've really found a way and a whole ecosystem to accelerate that change. So entrepreneurs are coming up with all kinds of new ideas, innovative ideas, and building these startups. And they do benefit the people who have disposable income. And then, so if you look at so for the people with disposable income, you need innovation. You need something new. If you don't have anything new, either a business model, a technology, or something that makes it cheaper, better, faster, you don't have anything. So innovation becomes extremely important. But for that innovation to have an impact, it has to meet relevance. So I want you to remember this formula because you're all engineers. So I just want to leave you with two formulas at the end of the talk. So relevance plus innovation is equal to impact. And in fact, the foundation started in 95, and the first probably 10, 15 years or so, we are primarily focused on this group of people. And I've been on the board of MIT for the last 25 years. I joined there in 2000. And in 2002, we set up the Center for Technological Innovation at MIT. And so what was the idea behind that center? The idea was that in most of the places, innovators innovate. Whether it's a think tank, policymakers in Delhi, or whoever, these are all very smart people. And when you get these smart people and you want them to innovate, you cannot mandate innovation. You have to give them the freedom to come up with ideas. But whenever you get a lot of very smart people together, it becomes clubby. And naturally, even though they have a deep desire for impact, they move further and further away from the real world. And so they get more into impressing each other rather than the impact. So if you want to have an innovative environment, have an impact on the world, you have to have a very conscious effort to connect innovators to relevance. And so that was the experiment at the MIT, which became very successful very quickly. And then we worked with the National Science Foundation to roll out a nationwide program called I-Core in US. And over the last 6 years or so, we feel that India needs it just as much as US, because that program in US last year alone generated about 2,500 companies. So for the last 6 years, we've been working with IIT Madras to roll out this program called Incubate, which is modeled after the I-Core in US, to make sure that the innovators who have a desire for impact have a way to connect with their relevance to the marketplace. And so, but all of this really helps the people who have disposable income. When it comes to the, and there's a lot going on. You know, we have heard about a lot of these technologies, which are, it's amazing. You know, I get to see them. In fact, I saw how the COVID vaccine was developed. You know, the DNA for the virus was available on January 23rd. By January 30th, Moderna, which is a company that came out of MIT, actually had the vaccine. And then it took about 9 months to go through the efficacy and safety and all those things. But it's just mind-boggling what's going on with all these innovations. But all these innovations will primarily affect the people with disposable income. And there's also some trickle-down that happens. You know, for example, cell phones, even though they were primarily used by the people who had disposable income, over the course of time, it's really seeped down and it benefits the people at the bottom of the pyramid. But if you really want to focus on the people who don't have disposable income, you have to start a little differently. You have to start with relevance. You know, when people are struggling to just get through the day, they don't need a solution that's the most competitive, patentable solution. They need a solution that's most relevant. And if you are able to find a solution that really makes a difference in their lives, then you have to create capacity. You have to create capacity within those communities so that they can absorb those ideas. And then if you're lucky enough to have an opportunity to scale it, then slowly you can start injecting technology, strategic planning, financial engineering, and a lot of the other things that you use in the other part of the economy. But you can't start with technology, you know, and that's a mistake that most of the people, I think, my colleagues make from US and software industry and so on. They all ask the wrong question. You know, the question that most of us ask is that, you know, what is it that I'm good at and what is it that I can do to help the people who are not doing that well? Unfortunately, it turns out to be the wrong question, because when you do that, you start with coming up with an idea, and that idea may or may not be relevant. You know, whenever you start a company, or you know that the first thing you have to do is to understand your customer base. And we all live in a certain way, and the customer base that you're trying to help is so different than the way we live, we think, and everything else. It's very hard to design products for them unless you actually work with them and you get them to lead that whole process of trying to define what products we should come up with. And so it's very important that you work with the people, the relevance first, and then you slowly start injecting innovation into it. In fact, this is a big part of the problem why the progress in the bottom of the pyramid is so slow. Because what happens is that, you know, for example, in US, it's a $400 billion sector, the philanthropy. And so anybody from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, you know, can go to the foundations and say, give me $25 million, poverty solved, hunger solved. And they will actually get that money. And these are all very sincere people. And so the professor and the graduate students and the postdocs and so on, they'll work really hard for 2-3 years, and they'll come up with an idea. They'll write a white paper, they'll write a textbook. And and their pressure is that they have to come up with an idea that's just a little bit more complex than what the previous guy did, right? If the previous one was fourth order polynomial, he has to come up with a solution that's fifth order polynomial, because otherwise he won't be able to publish the paper, he won't be able to get the recognition and so on. So what's happened is that in some ways, a lot of the very smart people in the world who are very, very genuine about having an impact on the world just keep coming up with a lot of these ideas. So we've become a poverty alleviation idea generation factory, whereas the people for whom we are trying to come up with all these solutions don't even have the capacity to absorb the simplest of these ideas. And so we have to somehow make sure that we avoid that trap, where we lead any improvement in the sector with ideas, stop leading with ideas and really start with the relevance. So, we've been working on this concept. I mean, it's a very difficult sector to work in. For the last probably 20 years or so, the center is based in Hubli, and we have a lot of these beautiful campuses. So this is our skilling campus, where we skill the young men and women from villages. And then we also have a startup where entrepreneurs are trying to come up with products and services for the people in the tier 2 cities and rural India. So if I were to, so one of the programs that we do is a farm pond program, where we dig a hole that's 100 feet by 100 feet by 12 feet in a private farm of a farmer who has 3 to 4 to 5 acres, and that collects the rainwater, and that rainwater will irrigate the land and get him a higher income. We've done about 15,000 of these, and because you got the scale, we have now the ability to use a lot of the satellite technology, track the moisture and the soil and so on. And so it gives you an opportunity to use advanced technologies for the benefit of these simpler solutions, but you can't start here and get there. You can start there, and then you can add value by embracing these technologies. So you can actually map things, and you can see the land is green and so on. The other sector that we work on is skilling. A lot of the young men and women in villages, they get BA, BSc, BCom, all kinds of degrees, so it's 15 years of education. But in some of these places, not a single person has ever gotten a job. So we have a program where we use flipped classrooms, we use a lot of technology to actually start training these people. We've trained about 20,000 of them, and we're trying to find ways to scale it. So even technology has enabled a lot of people. But if you look at it, when you have people with disposable income and people without disposable income, and then let's break them up into people who are highly motivated, which should be maybe 1% or less of the population, and then the rest of the people. When people have disposable income and they're very highly motivated, it's just heaven right now, because they have access to anything they want, and they're highly motivated, so they're going to do extraordinarily well. People who are not that motivated but do have disposable income, the free market economy takes care of it. There will be enough private schools, private tutorials, and all that kind of stuff. But when you come to the people who don't have disposable income, primarily rural India, there's an opportunity for the very highly motivated people to now access the online education and a lot of the other things, and they will really benefit the big way. But for the majority of the people, they don't even know that they should be studying. They've lost hope. It's not like they see opportunities to use the technology or are highly motivated to reach out and see those things. So you still have to do this tough task of reaching the last mile, creating role models within those villages, and getting people to believe in themselves that they can actually do better than what they're doing right now. And so that part of the hard work, I think, still remains. But I can see how the technology is going to make that job easier and easier. So So in conclusion, most of us come from the top. Most of us have practiced, most of us live in the community who have disposable income. But a lot of us have desire to help the people at the bottom. And if you want to do that, I think we have a lot of capabilities. People in this room, you have good education, you have access to a lot of knowledge, you have access to resources and all those things. But let's find a good way to bridge that to the benefit of the people at the bottom. Because I think it's very difficult to bridge and help those people unless you really get to know them. So that's why I think that relevance becomes extremely important. So over the last 20 years, what have we learned? So it's again, repetition of what I told you so far. It's really, first of all, building the trust. In the rural India, what happens is there's just so many NGOs. There's about 3 million NGOs in India and also 3 million NGOs in US. And so there is so many people who just bombard these people with all kinds of ideas and whatever. And most of these ideas are not fully baked. They're half-baked. And then there's government programs. So after a while, what happens is people lose the trust with the organizations that bring these solutions to them. And then it becomes very hard to penetrate their customer base and really make a difference in their lives. So first you have to build the trust with these people, and then you have to build capacity within those communities, and then you have to co-create the solution with them, and then collaborate. We have to work with other people who are also, because the lives here are so complex and their problems are so multitude that even though you're solving one problem, that one problem will not solve the whole thing. So it's going to take a lot of people to be working on lots of different problems. Now, community participation is very important. What do I mean by that? Part of the reason why the for-profit sector works so well is because the customer pays you for the services that you give him. So if the customer is not happy with what you're doing, you'll be out of business. And that feedback loop is a very powerful feedback loop to make sure that whatever you're doing is useful for the people that you're working for. In the nonprofit, unfortunately, the people who pay money for the interventions are not the people whom you're trying to benefit. And therefore, that feedback loop gets lost. And so there is huge amount of compassion, but there may not be execution excellence in the nonprofit world. So one of the things that we do is that we make the beneficiary actually pay at least a part of it, of the cost of the intervention. That way, it brings dignity to them because they're paying for what they're getting, and also this powerful feedback loop to make sure that we're doing something for which they value and they're willing to pay for it. I think more and more I see people really very desirous, particularly the younger generation, who really have their heart in the right place and want to help the people. So I'm hoping that all of us can get together and lead with really understanding their problem, making sure that anything that we do is relevant to them and we build their trust, and then bring forth the technology to really help scale those solutions, because it's a country with 1.4 billion people, and if you just do a few thousand here and a few thousand there, we're not going to be able to solve a systemic problem. So it's very, I'm very encouraged about what the next decade can bring for this country, and I hope we can all collaborate to bring forth some good solutions. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Desh. Actually, when I met Desh just before this event some time back, I said, I want to wait and hear your one-line statement which is impactful. So I didn't ask him what it will be this time, because I said I must wait. Because I remember a similar thing I heard him some 4-5 years ago in some of thing where he summarized a difference between for-profit organizations, and he was advising how to run NGOs. So he explained it again with a similar equation, saying that business organization is about efficiency, excellence, but plus compassion. You need a compassion for people, compassion for your stakeholders, and then you can make results happen. Now he says, this is fine for businesses, you can't run non-profits like that. And he reversed it, saying that it is compassionate first, is fine. However, they think only compassion is enough. That's not enough. You have to do efficiency too. They can't worry about, they should worry about how they can be effective. Compassionate is required, that is first thing, but don't forget efficiency. So I have been using his paradigm with his permission in many places that I speak Desh. So today he explained to us relevance and innovation, how innovation is important for urban areas and well-to-do, important. Relevance is, of course, to be done, but relevance more important. And we are learning it, by the way. To this audience, I would like to tell you, we are making transformation in wheels in rural areas, and Desh, the point that you made, that trust has to be first established, is something we miss. We started some work in that place, and we suddenly realized that there was a mistrust in terms of who are these guys and so on and so forth. Then a lot of work was done to make that happen, and things are moving in a place in a very different way. So some of what you have listed, there is actually a checklist of how to make transformation happen. Thanks for your great speech. Now we have a panel discussion, which is run by moderator is Professor D.V. Kale. He is Vice Chancellor of BATU, which is Baba Saheb Ambedkar Technical University in Raigad. We have panelists there, 3 of them. Mayank Gandhi, he is here, who is Managing Trustee of Global Vikas Trust, which is doing some interesting work again in rural areas. And we in Wills have some association, and we want to work together. We then have Sharayu Kulkarni. She is co-founder of an organization called RUCART, which is very interesting solution in rural areas about what you call storage of food without any refrigeration and so on. Again, I am not here to talk all about her company, but maybe she can spend some time when she is here. And then we have Amit Sinha. Is he here? Amit Sinha is from Unnati. Again, they are doing some interesting work that I saw in their website, but I think given our time constraint, I'm sorry, I can't give you full introduction to all the good work that you do. So can I invite all 4 of them here and request them? They have 30 minutes though. I am a boss here, unfortunately for them. So I'm going to stop you if it is more than 30 minutes, but please take charge, Dr. Kale, and run it.
Good afternoon to one and all. After listening the wonderful talk by the 2 eminent personality, and the time constraint and our boss is in front of us to make the time pace, we are adhered to the time pace particularly. So my distinguished fellow colleague on the panel, and the tone is very well set by the Honorable Chief Minister in the morning session and the rest of the 2 sessions. I had already circulated some of the glimpses point to my panel so that we can take it ahead in terms of technology, digital solutions in action, particularly for rural and agri. Basically, I am for a farmer community. I do practice this, and most of them are already working in the farming and farming sectors. So what we narrate at the beginning for the discussion, we'll take one by one. Perspectives and challenges of the rural life, particularly in the agriculture sector, and then how it is take it ahead particularly for making the enable to them their empowerment, like food, shelters, and others. The very well consent that has been set by the land use and land cover and social mapping and fertility for cropping patterns and yield estimation, through which we can identify the crop disease, yield estimation, quality productivity to enhance their productivity at and large. I just discussed 2 minutes earlier before with them. They are having the wonderful work on that particular productivity. Then the point pinpoint that the techniques and technology for the enhancement of their rural life, because they are socio-economic compact with the society, with the side business, with the farmers and all, how the technology help together to take it ahead for them. So water, as I say, that the Nayasar has already told, then power and grid, then agriculture product, its market strategy, and then we can have the insurance and policy to keep it ahead. Then socio-economic life, then village, technology for villagers, technology for farmers, and technology for entire socio-economic community altogether. And their challenges, natural challenges, that is the climate change and ecosystems and disasters in the soil fertility and other bigger challenges for fertilizer and all. And then finally, what are the technical solution as a information commerce technology for the entire society as a farmer, as a particular individual. So these are the narrative points that we had supposed to be identified. And we'll take one by one with starting from, start from the lady first. Would you please, madam, focus it on about the, as you had already mentioned that you had developed one particular instrument for the farmers particularly, because farmers is a big issue because of the productivity, more grain happens, and if they don't have the market, they don't have the warehouses and cooling system. And related to that, their economies, their energy goes west. So how we can pull off with the help of this technology to take it break ahead? Please.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I am Sharayu Kulkarni. I am co-founder of Ruka Technologies Private Limited. And as said earlier by Ashank sir, that RUCAT is an agri-tech startup and founded by 3 IIT Mumbai alumnus. And we work for the development of cold storage solutions, which are, passive cold storage solutions. It runs with water and does not need any kind of electricity. And as asked by the sir, we have developed this storage solution called as Subsea Cooler. And it runs with water, and it is a portable entity which can be shifted from your home to even your retail store or any cities. The movement of that product is from villages to top tier 1 cities. So we have this customer base from Bengaluru as well, who are using this product from past 3 years. So why this Subsea Cooler? Because there are big cold storages in terms of metric tons which needs energy, electricity, or now say bioenergy, or hybrid based or solar based cold storage are there, and usually they have installed at a outskirts of the city or even at a taluka place where the farmer community or the retailer community or this big vyapari you say. So these people has to access that, and farmers harvesting, collecting it, sorting, grading, and taking it to the cold storage, keeping it, and when the market rate is high, then they have to again take it and sell it to the market. So there is enough time for these people to rest. There is no cash guaranteed immediately, and the cold storage which is maintained, so they don't have that much kind of proper services, or operational challenges are huge. So in the terms of Subsea Cooler, it is individually owned, individually operated and maintained. So they can ascertain their value of the produce after 3-4 days also.
Yeah, madam, this is for Subsea, but I know there are food grain quality. After certain period, if the farmers storage their food like jawar, bajras and wheat and other, after some time it is not supposed to be propagated well, then they're wasted. That means there is some bhungas or kidas that get damages. So how can enhance this particular Subsea Cool toward the grain quality product level? Is there any plan in future for that?
Yeah, so even we have got a lot of inquiries regarding storage of tamarind, even this kishmish or this, what do you call that, raisins and all. So people are asking for that, and we are working on that. We have not yet launched anything, for the grain storage.
This is the mechanical technology that you are going to use or somehow the chemical technology. How the ICT based technology, that means location wise and storage wise, maintain the temperature and all.
Yeah. So this subsecooler, we have developed this innovative material, which is a 7-layer material installed in it. And when it comes in contact with the water, the cooling starts due to the ambient conditions. So this subsecooler is suitable for all agroclimatic zones. Means we have our subsecooler installed in Kutch, Gujarat, then in Meghalaya, Mizoram also, and then in Kerala also. So it works beautifully in all the regions of India.
Right. Taking it ahead, because the productivity and the quality product of the crops and farmer and subsidies is an immense important point. And there are a lot of technology in terms of biotechnology, in terms of agricultural sectors is available. My concern point here to Mr. Amit is that how can achieve the disease level monitoring at an large pan Maharashtra or district level. So there are various technologies, geospatial technology that I know we are working since from a lot. But if you know that where is a Lalia Rog or where is a Tambara Rog or where is a specific disease happens on the crop, particularly in a large amendment, how can alarm them? Is there any specific technique that you know or you want to add something into the particularly crop disease?
So sir, first I'll very briefly share what we are doing at Unnati. And in that context, how we look at this whole problem of educating the farmers and sort of providing them the wherewithal to manage any issues with their farm. Okay, so one of the things that at Unnati what we are doing, sir, is solving the problem of availability of seeds, fertilizers and crop protection products at the right time. So one of the key challenges that we saw in our work, and we are working in the agriculture sector since last 2010 actually. Though the current format what we are doing Unnati is something that we started in 2019. But one of the challenges that we saw was that, you know, in a village, application window of any product or any any seed, fertilizer or pesticide is only 15 to 20 days. So when the need arises in the farm for a particular product, the demand spikes at that time. And that is one of the big challenges, that while people have been able to solve the availability of products at a pan, let's say state level or a pan India level, at an individual market level, at a micro market level, there is always a challenge in that availability. And that is what we are trying to solve through our solutions, which are backed by technology, but at the end of the day, these are all supply chain related stuff and all. Second, what we realized was the farmers, they have a trust on their local retailers for all of these needs. Normally, they would not trust anybody from outside of the, and there is something that Sir was also explaining, that farmers, and obviously it's their livelihood. So 6 months earning, if it is dependent on something, you won't like to try out new things. You want to go back to those whom you trust through your generations and stuff. So that's why we partner with the retailers in helping them build their capability to address the needs of the farmer through digital technologies. That is the approach that we have taken, rather than directly solving the the farm problem through the farmer. Now this is what we are doing, where the impact of technology in terms of let's say there is a pest attack or something, and how do the farmers react to that, and where can we make an intervention. That is today, I would say, the technology to actually detect and identify what is the problem and give the right solution for that local market is still very nascent. The confidence levels are not more than 90-95%, which is not good for that farmer. It's a huge risk then for him. And that is where the human intervention, the normal retailer or the people who are in that community, they know better of what to use, when to use. The challenge is in terms of identifying at the right time and having access to the product promptly. And that is where the kind of velocity trends that we see on our platform, we are a commerce platform for retailers and other people to buy inputs from us. As we see there is a product which is being bought in our local market, we can predict. Our platform can then predict. So now is the need of the requirement of the particular, let's say chemical or particular, let's say the rains have started. So the late variety seeds would now start going out to the field. So increase the supply of that in that particular local market. So that is how we are trying to solve the problem of availability and helping the farmer out in terms of ensuring that his crop is not lost through the right crop protection product, and also use the right sort of thing so that the toxicity and other things do not increase in the farm.
Yeah, because disease is another quite impactful factor on this yield estimation and overall productivity. And as you said that correctly, during the COVID also, the patient and doctor don't know what will happen after this dose. So level of the dose, 1 ml, 2 ml, 3 ml, its quality of the content of the fertilizer also make an impact. So AI provided some solution. If I'm a patient, if my metabolism is like this, likewise crop metabolism, their environment and their weather and soil constant, depending on that, we can have the proper technical solution, how much of the drug that fertilizer, that the particular crop is required. Is that particular type of technology is available? Yeah.
Yes, sir. And what we do, sir, the technology is available. How do we ensure that it reaches out to the farmer in a way that he trusts it for his need? And that is where what we are doing is, so for example, one of the use cases that we have on our platform is, farmers trust the retailer. So we give the retailer that in your market, let's say brinjal is growing, so this week you should inform your farmers that this is what you need to do. Or there is a potential of a particular pest attack in this week, in this season, so you should use so much of a certain quantity, and this is how you should use it, so that the best results are there, and either there is no overusage or there is no underusage.
Right. Kind of. And big question about after disease, after fertilization, whether these particular crops or particular vegetable or grain maintain the productivity in terms of content value or nutritional values, or in terms of medical degradations about the side effect on that. How can able to measure that whether the particular product crop is whether quality product or not? The benchmark parameter as per the component wise, as per the technological point of view.
So, sir, we are doing less work on the farm output side.
Yeah,
we are doing
that
more
is the
work
one of the
where,
challenge for
where we do work. So, for example, one of the works that we are doing with sugarcane companies.
Right.
So, sugarcane companies have a limited catchment area. They can't increase the catchment area and increase their productivity. So, they are forced to work with the farmers very closely to increase their productivity and the right extraction rate of the sugar. And what we do is, with the sugar factories, we define a protocol that is best for that particular geographical area and the climatic zone. And based on that, we would go back into the value chain, link it up to how much of a productivity is he able to get out of the farm, and incentivize him accordingly so that he uses the right product at the right time. So that whole thing is where the technology comes in for tracking it and closing the loop with his output cycle.
Right. Linking to this, as you say that supply chain and break-even analysis for market requirement, it happens every day. We can use in the newspaper, lot of tomato, lot of potato, lot of even though sugarcane going west, and people are throwing on the surface of the roads and everywhere. So why this is to be happen? Because of?
So, sir, so it's a fairly complex problem that way. One of the challenges that we have always seen is that, and there is a lag, and this is where potentially in future technology would work. You know, farmers see good earning on potato this year. Now that would have happened because there was a higher demand and the supply was lesser. So then you will see villages on end next year sowing potato in a much larger area than that would have done in the last year. Now this creates a glut in the market in the coming year, and by design everybody else starts looking at
some particular crop there is a big productivity, some particular there is very less productivity.
I think where ultimately it will go is when we have an integrated platform where farmers know and it is predictable as to how many people are doing and how many in that particular area are actually going to sow a particular thing, then they can understand and manage that, okay, if it goes beyond this threshold, then the prices would start coming in. So once we have an integrated platform, which in the context of our country is a humongous task. It will take years to build that kind of a platform where a distributed set of farmers are able to sort of use technology to do it.
Some educational platform also required to them.
Yes.
And this productivity also related based on the soil condition. Yeah. So in India, in rest of the corner, and in Maharashtra, Konkan region having different fertility, Vidarbha region having different fertility. Yeah. And if it is just because of the farmers, nearby farmers having the good productivity last year, I can blindly go and put that particular crops and budget. So the enhancement of the rationing productivity of the crops, rather than the actually requirement and actually content of the soil, it is not happen actually.
But sir, I would say what I would like to say here is that this problem is limited only to the fresh produce kind of products. When you go to grains and all, where the majority of the farmers in the country actually operate, there is enough storage capacity available that you can store it and it doesn't go waste, or you don't have to liquidate necessarily by throwing on the field. Yes, there are isolated crops, especially in the fresh fruit and vegetable segment, where this does happen in the local areas. But I think the way to do that is to improve on the processing capacity. The more we are able to build in the processing capacity, the better we will be able to take care of the productivity gains that we are seeing. So like for example, in sugarcane, this doesn't happen because everything is processed. So the more the productivity increases, the more the earning of the farmer increases. And because there are multiple usage of the processed sugarcane, now with ethanol and other things coming. Similarly for potato, tabletop varieties have this problem. When you go to the chips and the commercial grade potato, there you won't find this problem because that is being processed and utilized further.
All right. Continuing to ahead with this technological constraint about the crop and yield estimation and productivity, I think you have done a wonderful work in your organization, and that you have chosen the particular remote area that is the Marathwada, from where we are actually, and scarcity about the farmers and all that you have removed particularly well, and you are still managing. So let us share your experience about this, the content, again the productivity, how you can enhance the productivity about the crops as well as the vegetable. Your experience, please.
Can I speak in Hindi?
Yeah, no problem.
आज देशपांडे सर ने जो बोला, whom I deeply admire, कि उन्होंने दो शब्द ऐसे बोले कि पहले प्रॉब्लम को समझना और ट्रस्ट बिल्ड करना. तो रेलिवेंस वाज द वर्ड, राइट? तो मुझे लगता है उसके पहले भी एक शब्द आता है कि वो हमें ही खुद समझना पड़ेगा. तो मैं एक इंटरनेशनल अर्बन प्लानर था, फिर एक्टिविस्ट था, लेकिन जब गांव में गया तब वहाँ के प्रॉब्लम समझने को मुझे 3 साल लगे. मैं एक अंग्रेज था और भारत के क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है, इट टुक मी अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम टू अंडरस्टैंड. उसके बाद हमने रेलिवेंस सीखा कि वहाँ के प्रॉब्लम्स क्या है. और टेक्नोलॉजी तो बहुत अवेलेबल है, मुझे टेक्नोलॉजी का टेंशन नहीं है. टेक्नोलॉजी आ रही है, आएगी और फ्यूचर में आती रहेगी, पर उसका प्रॉब्लम के लिए वो कौन सा रेलिवेंस है, कौन सा टेक्नोलॉजी यूज़ कर सकते हैं, इसके ऊपर हमने खूब काम किया. और लास्ट 5 साल में हमने क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न चेंज करके जो कॉटन और सोया उगाते थे वो अब फ्रूट के प्लांट लगाने लगे. और लास्ट 5 साल में हमने 5.5 करोड़ फल के पेड़ लगाए हैं. जो 15 गांव में हमने शुरू किया था समझने के लिए, वहाँ से अब 4,600 गांव तक पहुँच गए हैं. और अभी टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सोशल साइंस को हमने थर्ड पार्टी इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट का काम दिया था. तो उन्होंने रिपोर्ट दिया है कि जो 38,000 रुपया कमा रहे थे सालाना, वो अब 393,000 रुपीज़ कमा रहे हैं. 10 गुना से ज़्यादा 1.5 साल में इनकम बढ़ गई है. तो उसका कारण यही था कि हम उनका प्रॉब्लम समझ गए. फिर उसके प्रॉब्लम के लिए कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी यूज़ करनी है, दीज आर जस्ट टूल्स. द रियल प्रॉब्लम, द रियल solution is to understand them. First understand ourselves, understand them, and find in this world what are the solutions available, whether technology, techniques or whatever. तो इसके ऊपर काम करने से हमें बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट मिला है.
और एनहांसमेंट अबाउट द प्रोडक्टिविटी अबाउट द फूड ग्रेन, आपने जो बढ़ाई कुछ सपोर्टिंग मैकेनिज्म, जैसे कि आपने काऊ का एग्जांपल दिया है.
नहीं देखिए, इस बार हम लोग ने इस साल में 5 पॉइंट प्रोग्राम किया है. हमारे यहाँ 1 स्क्वायर मीटर में 5 किलो टमाटर होता है. नेदरलैंड में एवरेज 80 किलो होता है. हमारे यहाँ 1 एकड़ में जितना यील्ड होता है, ये वर्ल्ड का एवरेज का 25% है. हम लोग सेकंड लार्जेस्ट प्रोड्यूसर ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर है, लेकिन हमारा ग्लोबल एक्सपोर्ट 1% से कम है, क्योंकि हमारी क्वालिटी उतनी खराब है. तो पहला तो क्वालिटी, क्वांटिटी और यील्ड बढ़ाना, ये हमारा पहला टारगेट है. दूसरा, टेक्निक्स एंड टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करके ये अचीव करना. तीसरा बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, जब हम सोने की चिड़िया थे 1722 में, तब हमारा ऑर्गेनिक कार्बन 2.5 था. अभी 0.2 से 0.3 हो गया है। यानी वो घोड़ा मर रहा है, हम चाबुक मार मार के उसको चला रहे हैं। कितने क्रॉप्स देंगे, कितने हार्वेस्ट होंगे इस मट्टी के ऊपर, ये बहुत गहरा सोचने का विषय है। चौथा वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग और पांचवा फॉरवर्ड लिंकेजेस, जिसके अंदर प्रोसेसिंग भी आएगा, सप्लाई चेन भी आएगा, मार्केट टेबल वैरायटी भी आएगी। तो कहीं ना कहीं ये पांचों पॉइंट के ऊपर हमें ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड मीट करने पड़ेंगे। हम इंडियन के स्टैंडर्ड्स बहुत ही लो है, और ये किसान टिपिकली जहां मैं काम करता हूं 20 से 25 हजार रुपया एकड़ के कमाते हैं, वो कैसे जीते हैं, और इसीलिए उस एरिया के अंदर इतने सुसाइड्स होते हैं। एक आदमी सुसाइड करता है तो उस रात को नहीं करता है, वो 6 महीने से सुसाइड सोच रहा है, और एक सुसाइड करता है तो साथ में 5000 रेडी है सुसाइड करने को, जिनकी हिम्मत नहीं चलती है। तो उनके प्रॉब्लम समझ के उसको रेलिवेंट टेक्निक्स, टेक्नोलॉजी, ये सब को यूज़ करके उनकी इनकम कई गुना बढ़ाएं, ये टारगेट हमारे सामने है।
बिल्कुल मैडम, मैं आपके तरफ आता हूँ। जैसे कि आपका स्टोरेज स्टोर कोड है सब्जियों का, तो इसमें एक होता है कि हम हिंदी समझ सकते हैं आप? हाँ। तो न्यूट्रिशनल वैल्यू और मेडिसिनल वैल्यू प्रिजर्वेटिव होती है। जैसे कि हम आर्टिफिशियली प्रिजर्वेंट डाल के कुछ उसको लाइफ बढ़ाते हैं, और दैट इज़ नॉट गुड फॉर हेल्थ। सो इन टर्म्स ऑफ मेडिकल कॉन्शियसनेस और हेल्थ कॉन्शियसनेस, have done some experiment on this particular issue. If the sabji is protected for 10 to 15 days or 1 month or 2 months, what will the changes in its medical values and nutritional values?
So ये जो सब्जी कूलर हमने डिज़ाइन किया गया है, तो ये टिपिकली शॉर्ट टर्म स्टोरेज के लिए किया गया है। जैसे कि लीफी वेजिटेबल्स जो फ्रेशली हार्वेस्टेड फ्रॉम द फार्म है, वो 3 से 4 दिन, वी डोंट से बियॉन्ड 4 days, बिकॉज वी नो दैट आफ्टर 4th day the yellowing of the leaves will happen. तो ऑलरेडी वो टेस्ट करके ही हमने वो स्पेसिफिक ड्यूरेशन वहाँ पे मेंशन किए हैं। जैसे फ्रूट वेजिटेबल है 4 से 6 दिन, वी डोंट गो बियॉन्ड दैट, वी डोंट रिकमेंड बियॉन्ड दैट। एंड एनीबडी, और हमको फील्ड में ये भी दिखाई दिया है, देर आर पीपल हु नीड स्टोरेज ओनली फॉर राइट आफ्टर हार्वेस्टिंग टिल 10 to 12 hours टिल दे टेक इट टू द मार्केट। क्योंकि जो प्रोड्यूस हार्वेस्ट होता है तो मैक्सिमम लॉसेस और बैक्टीरियल अटैक उसके नेक्स्ट 48 hours में होता है उस पर। सो उसमें आपको अगर कूलिंग सोल्यूशन मिल जाता है, यू कैन प्रिजर्व दैट विदाउट अफेक्टिंग इट्स न्यूट्रिशनल वैल्यू, विदाउट अफेक्टिंग इट्स मेडिसिनल वैल्यू।
Great.
Yeah.
And similar for think about the food grain also, like jowar,
Yes,
bajas,
sir,
and also.
definitely.
Yeah. My next question to you, Mr. Amit, on the same line. When we are saying that there is a productivity and yield estimations and fertilizer and all, we are just enhancing the productivity of the foods and particular crop. So, as the market chain management system, as he says that farmer required 8 days storage or 10 days storage or 1 month storage to preserve, as and when market price get increases, they can boost their income level up. So, do you have any particular type of strategical solution in terms of this, how to meet out the break-even analysis? There is a solution in the technology. But can you identify some sort of solution like that?
Yeah. So, sir, as I said, so apart from the productivity improvement, there are challenges. So, short-term productivity can be managed through the, through the chemicals and other stuff. But as sir was also saying, longer-term, a lot of these have negative impact. So, for example, one of the things that we started doing, and again, farmers, because their earnings are very low, typically focus on the short-term solutions more, unless and until we are able to, in that same context, bring a longer-term solution which takes care of his immediate needs, but also of the longer-term solutions. So, for example, I'll give you a brief example of what we have been doing in UP on potash usage. So, a lot of the farmers use chemical potash, and all of us know that there is over-usage of urea, potash, and all. Like this year, there was a significant challenge in availability of potash, and we have this potash derived from molasses is a product which we are working with various other agencies, and it is an accepted technology giving good results, but its impact is more long term as compared to chemical DAP. So farmers were less sort of interested in utilizing it. But once they started seeing constraints on the availability of the chemical potash, many of them were very happy to replace that with a with the non-chemical potash or the bio-potash. And once they have started using it, they have stuck to it because they are seeing the benefits of it in over a period of 2 to 3 years, and they have started using it. So a lot of these things is what, because of the, what we believe is that if you nudge the farmer to gradually to a new technology or a different thing, then they will start using it. If you try to replace at one go, it won't work. So that is something that we as a company try to achieve by gradually moving him, saying that first optimize and then replace. That is how the whole cycle goes.
Right, and likewise to you also, same point in ahead in that notion, quality measures and quality control. I say that this is the quality good, you say this is quality good. If there is a fertilizer, if there is a clean and neat, but internally it is not supposed to be good for health. Yeah. So quality measures consciousness towards the farmers.
Now this is where, if we tell the farmer, now the farmer has two choices. We tell him, this is not good for the end quality. Then his question is, what do I get for getting that quality? If I am giving you a better quality food, am I getting anything extra of that? And if I am not able to link that extra value to him, then he will use the lower cost product, because for him it's a production factor. Right. Now this is where, if we are able to show him, and this is the example that I was giving of the sugarcane companies, we work a lot on that. There are chemicals which actually reduce the extraction rate of the sugarcane. Now it is in the interest of the sugarcane company that they go ahead and give that extra incentive to the farmer that you don't use a lower cost product which leaves a residue or reduces the extraction rate, but use a higher quality, a green product which will not make a negative impact on the outcome, on the quality of the sugarcane itself. Now, because they have an interest in getting better rates, and we can show to the farmer that if you use this product, you will get extra earning out of the sugarcane that you are selling, then he is happy to use that. Now this is where technology can provide the backward linkage in terms of giving him an upfront view of how much you are going to improve if you use product A versus product B.
Right. यही एस्पेक्ट पे आप अपना फोकस करिए, आप जो बताना चाहते थे हमें।
नहीं, मैं ये कह रहा था कि देशपांडे सर ने आज वो रेलिवेंस और दूसरा ट्रस्ट कहा, तो मुझे थोड़ा सा ट्रस्ट के बारे में कहना है कि जब मैं गांव में गया और मराठवाड़ा जहां हाईएस्ट फार्मर सुसाइड, जहाँ पे सूखा पड़ा था, 3,500 रुपया मंथली इनकम थी, तो उनका ट्रस्ट लेना सबसे ज़रूरी था। तो कुछ भी काम किए पहले हमने वहाँ पे बहुत बड़ा मूवमेंट किया। मैं मूवमेंट के बैकग्राउंड से आता हूँ, तो वहाँ पे हमने दारूबंदी का बहुत बड़ा मूवमेंट किया। सारे लेडीज़ रोज़ शाम को मशाल लेके दारूबंदी जालीच पाइजे करते थे। सारे लेडीज़ मंदिर के बाहर मंजीरा लेके रामधुन करने लगे, और 15-20 दिन के अंदर हमने दारू बेचना पूरा बंद करवा दिया गांव में। उसके बाद डाउरी के विरुद्ध हमने मूवमेंट शुरू किया। उसके बाद जब पानी फाउंडेशन का कंपटीशन हुआ, तब हज़ारों गांव वाले सब गमेला पावड़ा लेके, और 45 दिन में हमने 70 किलोमीटर ऑफ रिवर डीपनिंग वाइडनिंग किया, 164 फार्म पॉन्ड्स बनाए, 62 चेक डैम्स बनाए, 5 बड़े डैम बनाए। उसके बाद जब हम उनके पास गए कि आपको क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न चेंज करके अपनी इनकम बढ़ाना है, तब तक उन लोगों के पास हमारे ऊपर पूरा ट्रस्ट आ गया था। तो जब तक ट्रस्ट नहीं आए, तब हमारे जैसे हजारों किसान के पास जाते हैं, अलग अलग स्टोरी देते हैं, वो किसान भी ऐसे ऐसे मुंडी हिलाता है, लेकिन वो बिल्कुल विश्वास नहीं करता। सो इट टुक अस एटलीस्ट 2 to 3 years टू विन दैट ट्रस्ट। और मुझे लगता है कि किसान बहुत बेचारा दुखी है, उसको बहुत जन जाके अलग अलग प्रोडक्ट, अलग अलग स्टोरी बेच चुके हैं, और उनका एज के ऊपर जी रहे हैं, सुसाइड के एज पे जी रहे हैं। तो उनको पहले ट्रस्ट अगर नहीं विन करेंगे, तो हम आगे का कोई भी टेक्नोलॉजी, कोई भी सॉल्यूशन नहीं दे पाएंगे।
राइट। तो मुझे लगता है कि आप जो बता रहे हैं कि फर्स्ट टू एजुकेट द फार्मर्स इन अ राइट एंड अप्रोप्रिएट वे about the good farming practices and ethical and moral value, and how to cultivate the particular land with the help of land assessment and all. For this, the digital technical solution in action is required. At the beginning, in the morning session, CM sir says that drone Didi, like technical Didi, preservation, the empowerment, socioeconomic, blockchain management, all these are the technical composition where we need to train the farmers and people. And this Pandey sir correctly pointed out that there is a impulse graduate available nearby the villages. If you train them, they can come into the force and they can pull in the survival of the society for the betterment. I would like to add one point and then try to finish. Yeah, for all these particular solution, we work sincerely last from 2 decades in geospatial technology. Already this Pandey sir shows on some satellite map. So yield estimation, crop analysis, area mapping, cropping patterns, then supply chain management, networking, GIS tagging, all these are the probable solution. ओवर वाटर, अंडर वाटर, ऐसा हमारे पास है कि एक दुनिया में बाढ़ आती है, दूसरी दुनिया में सूखा होता है. So there is a proper management about the utility of the water also, and the climate change and disaster management, that to the damage control assessment. कहीं तो भी बाढ़ आ गई, बहुत बड़ा बारिश हो गई, पूरा क्रॉप सॉइल हो गया, and then we don't have the actual data. So remote sensing, satellite data and field city data are the probable solution in terms of the geospatial technology for soil mapping all. And answer to this particular query about this particular track, digital solution in action, I would like to suggest as a technocrat, the geospatial technological solution in terms of the GIS for mapping to the villages in terms of socioeconomics is the probable solution for that. I think to take this note, my panelists also will able to support me in that particular direction. If you empower the power, if you empower the enhancement of the product of the crops, we need to teach them in a particular way in their own language and their own constraint with the help of the technology. 100% technology help to improve their sociological life and empower themselves for the good productivity for the nation. So with this brief, I think I thank to the organizers for giving this opportunity to present in front of you and express overview about these digital solution in action, particularly for rural and agriculture sector is in a beam as 70%, as well as 70% live thing and 70% land also get acquired. We don't have any alternative solution to survive the country in together if you are not going to enhance the agriculture sector in a more way. And that is the solution only with the help of technological. With the help of technical support, we can enhance and we can empower. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much, and thank you very much for patiently listening. Hope that we should take a note and we'll take it ahead for business. Sir. Yeah.
Thanks. I think good to see technology used for rural upliftment. But what was more reassuring was they were all, as Mr. Mayank Gandhi was speaking and Desh has said, relevance first, trust first, innovations is needed, but that follows. So I must thank all the three speakers here for their participation. We now have a very interesting talk. Our next speaker is Dr. Nikhil Joshi. Dr. Joshi is a scientist, entrepreneur, and founder of LIFEL. It's an organization dedicated to advancing cutting-edge scientific research in the evolution of multi-level natural and social systems. So he looks at natural systems and see what is its implication to social systems. Very interesting thing that I also am trying to understand. His work explores the foundations of socio-economic organizations within the broader framework of evolution of living systems. He holds PhD from Medical College of Virginia, and then additionally he is an alumnus of Entrepreneurship Development Program at MIT, Sloan School of Management, and the ISB Kellogg Global Advanced Management Programs. What he's going to talk about is how science and digital technologies are creating a new bio-waste revolution. I'm sure you know bio-waste issues. It's there for many years with us, but I think it requires maybe next level of leap and inflection point through science and digital technologies, and that's what Dr. Joshi would be talking. Can I invite Dr. Joshi to come up? So, less than 15 minutes, if you can. We are already up time.
So good afternoon, everyone. While we wait to sort out these technical problems over here, I'd like to talk a little bit about the challenge that we're facing and what we're working on. The organization that I represent is a very unusual organization in the sense that we bring in very deep science. With scientists spread across the world, we bring in very deep science and an understanding of how living systems are organized. Once you understand how living systems are organized, it completely changes our paradigm of organization from one which is currently a top-down organization to one where we start understanding live zone strategies to create organizations and ecosystems that are growth-oriented, that are development-oriented, and which integrate sustainability into it. So learning from Live's 4 billion years of experience in organization design, we start looking at our long-standing problems like aligning ecosystems and economics and things like that. So that is the organization of LifeL. My talk today is that over the last 100 years, we've really built a phenomenal supply chain of farm to plate. And this is a supply chain that delivers food to us when we need it, where we need it, what is needed. And now we can also order it within 10 minutes on the phone. So think about, this is perhaps the best time for humanity as far as food supply chains and availability of foods are concerned. But having seen some success over there, we're faced with an even bigger problem. And the bigger problem is taking some 6 trillion kilograms of food which is produced or agricultural production that is produced, which eventually becomes bio-waste or toilet waste. Taking all of that back to the farms. And because we failed so miserably in that, it is having a devastating effect on our soil health. And like Mayankji mentioned during these presentations and during this panel, that the carbon levels in the soil are getting depleted. The technologies to create this plate-to-farm reverse marketplace exist. And if the technologies exist, why is it that we are not able to close the loop? So the talk today is about 3 things. I'll talk about the real reasons why we are not able to make progress on that, the problem. Some innovative solutions to that. And for everyone else in this room who are entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, educators, I'll present phenomenal new opportunities. I would say a feast of opportunities in creating the first plate-to-farm reverse marketplace. So why are we not able to solve this problem? The answer actually lies in this gourmet meal that you see here. So last year, I was invited to a friend's 50th birthday party, and it was a Michelin star dinner that he had organized. It was a fantastic dinner with a fantastic price. The dinner was priced at 450 euros per head. And I thought it was outrageous, right? But come to think about it the other way around, that it is this price at the table that is paying for this entire gourmet supply chain that brings the food from the farms, from the organic farmers, to the packers, to the cold chain, the Michelin star chefs, and bringing it up onto the table in a French chateau, right, to be enjoyed. Without this value on the table, this entire supply chain just cannot exist. So now what happens to this gourmet meal the next day morning when it hits the pot? Its value becomes 0. Absolutely zilch. Now, this is a huge problem because if the toilet waste and bio-waste has no value, what do you do to it? You burn it, like farmers burn the stubble and choke our cities, or you can actually dump it into the river if it comes in through sewers, and that's polluting our rivers, or people just ignore it. And that's the three things that normally happens to bio-waste when it really has no value. But there's a paradox in this. And the paradox is that what we actually call waste is, in fact, a real treasure. It is full of nutrients like phosphorus, nitrogen, carbon, and a lot of micronutrients that the plants really crave. So if you were a plant, this is like a Michelin star dinner for you, right? But unfortunately, money as we know it today does not capture the value of something for non-human species, because money is a human invention. So this was a real aha moment when we started looking through a lens of science. We started looking at this problem, because previously we thought that problem was about bad governance, inadequate funding of the sewage treatment, and all of those kind of things. But very rarely do you get an insight which goes to the root of the problem. And this was an insight at the root of the problem. So we knew that unless we explored these insights and explored the root of the problem and designed a new money system, it would be very difficult for us to solve this plate-to-farm problem and create agricultural improvements in any sustainable way. So with this problem, looking for solutions, we approached LifeL. It's a nonprofit that I set up, where we bring in deep science and solutions developed together around a common hypothesis. A hypothesis combines the science and solutions development to really get into the root of the problems. So what did they find? They said, look, if exchange between people in an economy gives rise to metastructures like banks, financial networks, and money, and these institutions are, in fact, again, supported by these large-scale exchange in economies, and in turn, these institutions provide efficiency and scalability to our economic system. So if ecosystems are the largest exchange networks for biomass on our planet, would these kind of institutions arise in ecosystems as well? And using this hypothesis, when we commenced this research to solutions development exercise, we were stunned with what we found. We found an entire banking network under the ground operated by a fungus called arbuscular mycorrhiza. So let me explain. So when a plant takes root in the soil, we say, OK, now the plant has taken root. But what it's actually doing is it's connecting to this large fungal network, which connects to all the plants in the neighborhood. And this network operates on a currency of phosphorus. So it takes phosphorus, which is essential for photosynthesis and for ATP production in plants, and it uses this as a currency to invest across the plants in an ecosystem to see where it can get the best returns of carbohydrate from the plants. And to give you an indication of how important this particular fungus is, that somewhere around 20% of total photosynthetic production of plants is actually piped down into this fungal network. So we had discovered nature's own banking network. And so far, we thought that it was human ingenuity and our intelligence which really created markets and banks. But unfortunately, this fungus has beaten us to that, on that by about 300 million years. So wow, we had some new insights, right? So then the next question was that if this is how things are operating, how do you integrate that to find a new solution to this problem? So now on one hand, on our planet, we have two economic systems. On one hand, we have our human economic system, which operates on money. On the other hand, you have your ecosystem economic system, which operates on phosphorus and other nutrient currencies. So the question was that can we integrate the two? And if we are able to integrate the two and start developing research and solutions on integrating these two, we would have a whole new paradigm in sustainability. Now, we've done this integration in countries where there is import or export between countries, and we create value exchanges through exchange of currencies. Can we do the same between ecosystems and human currencies? The challenge was that this had never been done before, because the counterparty in this is non-human, right? So again, we brought in the LifeL solutions development team, which we call as Thrive Lab, where we first develop an overall architecture of a solution, and then we get technologists to start scoping out different components and putting it together. So after a lot of debate and ideation, we came up with an outline of a solution. So think about it. Subhash, a small farmer in a rural area, dispatches, say, 10 tons of tomatoes from his farm. Okay? What would happen is that the nutrients in that 10 tons of tomatoes, in terms of nutrient currencies like phosphorus and nitrogen and others, would be measured. And what we would do is, on a blockchain, his farm would get credited with that much of nutrient currency value. When a nearby biowaste processor deposits biowaste of equivalent nutrient value at the farm, the transaction is closed and a new blockchain currency is generated, which we call as O-coin. So generating that blockchain currency allows us to now pay the farmer, to pay the biomass processor, and this blockchain currency is then exchangeable for Indian rupees on a cryptocurrency market. Think about it. For the first time, we had an entire new business model to convert shit into cash flows. Right? And this was, again, very exciting. Now think about the impact of this. The first impact of this is that now we have value for bio-waste at the farm end, and this can pay for the entire reverse supply chain, from waste collectors to processors to logistics companies to vendors who are selling it to the farm. And now we can have this farm receiving the bio-waste, organic bio-waste, much more easily. Second, this is going to tremendously improve our soil health, because it's going to get all the nutrients back to the, to the farm. And third is that this will create millions of new jobs in entrepreneurship, in technologies, in solutions, and all of that to support this reverse marketplace from plate to farm. On the environmental side, by giving value to bio-waste, we are now creating a disincentive for stubble burning, which is now choking Delhi and a lot of cities in India. We're also, as a next step, and I think this would be very interesting for all of you, as a next step, we are creating the first open distributed innovation build-a-thon, using the city of Nasik as an innovation sandbox, and with the government participation in this as well. We are going to use the agri-stack infrastructure, digital infrastructure of the government, to create a UPI equivalent for nutrient exchange, right? So UPI presently works on money, on human transactions. We want it to work now for nutrient transactions at the farm level. We're exploring the digital currency and digital finance, opportunities in making this reverse bio marketplace happen. Rapid testing technologies in bio-waste, and of course, strengthening the biologistics and the bio-waste farm-to-plate companies, including the processing and the logistics companies. So I invite all of you all to join us in this effort to create India's first and the world's first farm-to-farm food circle, right? And I think the real impact of that is that the next time when you're having a meal at the fancy restaurant, you'll feel blessed that somewhere on our planet, a plant is also having a meal with you. Thank you. If you'd like to connect with us, I have this, and I'm open to questions, yeah. Yeah.
And the major issue we are overlooking is, I recall, I ran a Pan IIT session in 2009. I had a couple of professors from Johns Hopkins on my session, and they said, oh, I will tell you, I'll give you a serious answer on how to solve the water and food issues in India. All we needed to do was switch the eating habits from wheat to rice of north and south. When that kind of a cultural change is that hard, just imagine this. That is my question for you.
Actually, the opportunities that we see is, all the opportunities that exist ahead of us are in transformation. And I think whenever we think in terms of transformation, the value creation is much, much higher than what you do in incremental movements. And typically, like you're seeing now, that this entire talk about moving away from wheat and rice to millets, or this transition that you're looking in food habits, when it happens on a mass scale, you really have the multiplier effects, right? And I think that is the power of these kind of innovations, to be completely disruptive and really transition our societies from being at conflict with nature to start working with nature, right? Where millions of people can actually be now employed to restore and regenerate our soil systems. Thank you.
Thanks. So I had told you that Mr. Pratik Srivastava is not here, so it's cancelled, but that's not the case. I'm sorry for that. I believe he's not well, and he has sent his video recording. So we'll play his video recording for the next 10 minutes.
Hello everyone, my name is Pratik. I hope you're having an incredible day at PIWOT. I would have loved to do this in person, but unfortunately I could not make it. But let's get started. We are running out of basics. The UK ran out of tomatoes, coffee, and the world's short of cocoa and more. Now, people who've produced food for generations are shrinking. The newer lot doesn't want to do farming. Fewer people are now feeding more people. Farming has always been the profession of the brave. The original entrepreneurs. They took risks, they braved climate. But today these risks are increasing so dramatically, so variably, that many farmers are giving up. They're losing heart. Climate change has made them vulnerable more than ever before. Every calendar day, 5 farmers take their lives. 15 years ago, a similar incident shook my family. I've experienced damage up close. As a loved one, a farmer, a brave one, took his life. Only if he had access to more or better capital, or access to better policy, or access to technology. Only if there was access, today we would have more hands. So is technology the answer? Is AI and all the innovation the answer? Honestly, let me tell you how we at Cropping are helping food producers. Now, here's what we do in Kenya. Maize is a critical crop value chain for food security of the country. it is really, really important for the country, for the government to know how much maize they are going to produce. If it's a bad year, they need to produce more in advance. If it's a good year, they need to figure out storage, warehousing, and a bunch of other things. Most often than not, they get it wrong. And the impact runs in the range of 200 to $300 million. Over the last few years, I worked in Kenya alongside the World Bank. And technologies provided 95% accurate yield estimates and crop acreage estimation. Now, what does that even mean? It means that with a 5% error margin, we were able to estimate how much maize was going to be produced in the country and also where, which state, which country, and which farm. Usually, because of climate change, these estimates had error margins to 30 to 40%. From there, it's gone down to 5% error margins using technology. Now we've used crop knowledge, we've used infrastructure like remote sensing, satellite data, which is already getting better, weather data, and AI ML models built alongside Google to solve for food security reliably. What we've done is that we've saved them millions and millions of dollars. It's allowed money to be put to good use. Technologies, access, intelligence made sure that the money was used for schools, hospitals, and medicines instead. Making sure that lack of accurate information does not come at the cost of the country's development. And it should never come at the cost of any country's development. We're also doing work in many other countries, over 100 other countries. Right? And we also run what we call the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana in India, which is the world's largest farmer insurance program. Now, next time there is a farmer claiming an insurance, technology allows processing of this in a matter of seconds. Millions of farmers are benefiting out of this technology access. But farmers don't necessarily only relate to government, right? I mean, it's a larger ecosystem. And therefore, we also reach out to farmers, work with a lot of farmers, and I've been personally involved in some of these, where we work with a lot of CPG companies, potato farmers who produce what you must be having today is Lay's chips, PepsiCo, and many other such CPG companies globally, McCain, and so on and so forth. Work with a lot of seed companies who create massive amount of varieties for wet seeds, for field crops. Crop protection companies, we work with them as well. We also work with insurance companies, solving a variety of use cases using AI. So what's next? Now today we compute 10% of world's croppable land every single day. That's approximately 400 million hectares of agricultural land being processed on our servers every single day. That's 400 million hectares getting captured by a variety of satellites, combined with weather data that's coming in and helping farmers across 100 countries. That's over 15 million farmers getting access to information which they use every day in growing what's most important to them, which is food. Over the next 24 months, we want to compute a fourth of world's croppable land. And today, this jump has been made possible because of AI. AI has enabled us to become even more ambitious in our quest to solve for future of food. So next time, if you pick up a fresh produce on a retail shelf, there would be a 25% chance that it was produced using insights and forecasts from AI. So in conclusion, over the last 15 years, all of us in agritech have been both stupid and arrogant, including me. But farmers have taught us a lot of humility. We've learned that neither one of us can solve this puzzle alone. It's meant for all of us to come together and solve. I thank you all for listening to me and invite you, all of you, to help in our journey of solving for the future of food. Have a great event, everyone. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, Pratik. So here I am to summarize. I don't think too much of summary is needed here. I was really kind of amazed with the kind of technology solutions that are getting offered here by people who came on the podium, be it a cooling solution for preservation or solving the problems of bio-waste innovatively, or as he was talking about croppable land coverage and covering every pixel, or Unnati and Mayank Gandhi. So I think what is coming out really is, if I may say, technology has come to solve the problems. It's very clear. I think there are a lot of issues which were not solvable earlier, given the changes in terms of availability of computing power, availability of data, availability of intelligence through AI, are enabling us to solve the problems which were probably difficult to solve earlier. So that is the digital side of it. But then there is a really on-the-ground solutions that we talked in our panel discussions too. But some of those are technologies which are ground-level technologies beyond digital. But I think all that will have to be, of course, what should I say, covered with the message that Desh gave, is that first we need to find the relevance of them. And I'm sure, and I hope all of these solutions are relevant and are, if so, the innovative solutions will surely succeed. And the trust which was coming again and again in some form or the other. So Desh, thanks for giving that overall message, which was important. I think we were amazed with the kind of innovations that are happening through technology. So I thank all of the people here and would like to invite them up. We have a small ceremony. So let all the people participated, please come up. Desh, Dr. Kale, then Sarayu and Mr. Sinha, and also Dr. Joshi. Please come up. Mr. Gandhi is not here, is it? Mayank is not. Oh, you are here.
Please join me with a round of applause, felicitating, starting with Ashan. with this, we come to the close of the day for this room.